Then somebody take the link and paste it all over the place.
Just give me 1 second. I would love to paste it.
Well, I think I'm up and ready to go
Everywhere.
here.
Oh, I got to get Audacity turned on and make sure it's monitoring correctly. Check. All right, we're good to go on that. I guess I can turn off my OBS since I won't be streaming. And now, Norbert, since you're going to be doing the hosting, you'll need to share your screen.
Oh, on Discord?
Yes, on Discord. And then, Bill, you'll need to click watch stream after he shares his show notes.
Gotcha. But he can just share the show notes from his browser, no?
Yeah, but if you're the one doing readings, then it's better for
that way you can control the scroll.
Right, while you're scrolling.
Whoa.
That's loud.
That was loud, wasn't it? Sorry.
Yeah, please don't do that.
Yep, there goes my plans of having open the show notes on a different computer.
Well, you can still do that.
Happened.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm not keeping well.
So you're not feeling well?
We're still waiting on Leo, so...
Yep. Okay, in the meantime, I have to trim them on some of the stuff that I didn't finish in the show notes.
I put myself through so much physical walk today, like 6 kilometers up down. Now
What's a non-physical walk?
Physical stress.
Oh, we haven't filled in the news on the intro.
Like
Yeah, some of them. 9 to 5 Linux was offline today, but it's now back online, so I can fill out security.
Like walking 6 kilometers up down after a month is staying at home is not a joke.
Whoever posted the first news article, they've stopped using the name Raspbian altogether.
What?
It's just Raspberry Pi OS now.
Yeah, they changed the name.
Not
like
Raspbian.
last year sometime.
So
That's
even
why
if you
I
call it Raspbian, that's fine. Or
It's
will it
Raspberry Pi
confuse me?
OS.
Raspbian sounds way cooler, but yeah, okay.
Why did they change it?
To make it
'Cause
less
they wanted
confusing, I
to.
guess.
They should ask user opinions on the names. Raspberry Pi OS sounds like iOS. Very simple. Raspbian, I agree with Norbert. Raspbian sounded.
I wonder why they changed that. They really didn't.
I guess it's because there might be people who want to use Raspberry Pi, but they have no idea what Debian is, so it's a more straightforward name, just for simplicity's sake.
Well, speaking of which, what I've got up here is the new 64-bit version of Raspberry Pi OS that they're now making officially
That's
available.
in the news as our first news item.
Well, here it is, right here on this screen.
Oops,
What desktop is it using, Bill?
Well, it's using their re-implementation of the LXDE desktop. They're calling it, what are they calling it now? Raspberry Pi desktop? Or they tried calling it Pixel, and I think they got a cease and desist on that.
From Google?
More than likely, yeah. I don't know what they're calling it now, but it's...
Well, let's click on the link here and see if that's in the article.
But it seems to be a pretty good... Because...
Nope.
Did you go live?
Yeah.
Because I'm not getting a notification from YouTube. Ah, okay. Yeah, I see it now. Let me see. Yep, 380 live stream. Yep, I got it.
Anyway, yeah, it's LXDE, but it's customized. It's been updated in some ways, but it can also be used on an x86 system. In fact, Raspberry Pi OS has an i386 image. So if you've got an old 32-bit,
PAE?
I don't know if it's got the PAE or not. I suppose.
Okay.
I mean, why would you use that if you had 4 gigs of RAM? You'd probably have a 64-bit processor.
No, because most of the 32 bits are PAE, non-PAE, something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much it gets used out in the wild either. Who's got 32-bit machines anymore?
I need to calm down a bit here. I'm kind of this is being a little hectic right now, and we still don't have Leo.
It's gonna be all right, Moss.
Yeah, I know, but the system, the brain heats up sometimes. My processor does not work on high heat any better than my computer's does.
What a broad topic today for innards.
I don't know anything about it.
I may never know anything about it even after the show.
So that's going to be all you and the two of you and Leo.
I think me and Leo. Just
Yeah.
What about Norbert? Aren't you taking that too?
I have no idea
Oh.
about any of the administration related stuff on Linux. So
Oh boy.
well, I did install Fedora. Does that count?
no.
Fedora's easy
I
now.
installed.
Yes, but I didn't include the GUI package management tools.
Oh.
The reason I started using Fedora was getting into, like, I had used Red Hat 7 when Dad studied for that exam, and he learned when he was preparing for the job interviews for system administration.
Oh, I see.
So with the old GNOME 3 something, so I thought why not let's try Fedora, and that's how I started using Fedora.
I've got it on a KVM on here just to play with it, and it's fine.
Good thing about Fedora, out of the box virtualization with GNOME boxes. You don't have to install any extra stuff on it.
Oh, the snap shines bright on my old Ubuntu GNOME.
I don't use Ubuntu anymore, but if 22.04 is a good release, I might just move back to Ubuntu 22.04 LTS and try to stay there for the 5 years,
Yes,
which
but
it offers.
they have snaps.
There's nothing wrong with
I don't
Snap.
care. I don't
Well-
care. I started with it. I would love to continue with it.
There's no
Meanwhile-
problem with snaps unless you compare it to Flatpak. and
Hey,
realize it's
Leo,
better.
welcome back.
There
Good
is a
Abend.
Leo.
Uh-huh.
We will have a 4-hour show today.
Oh, God, no. I'm out at 2 hours, whether we're done or not.
Let's make it 3 for today because it's a
Oh,
wild
buddy. Oh, no.
one. So what's up, Leo? Long time no see on
I
the
know.
stream.
Yeah. Not much, really. Mostly the same.
How is the young one doing?
She's great. She's actually at a sleepover today, which is why I'm here. And as soon as we're done here, I'm going to go pick her up.
Busy dad.
Yeah.
Bill, I wanted to mention, sorry, that we have a lot of these metallic metal hitting something else noises from your recordings. Is something hitting your microphone stand?
I think it was me putting my coffee mug down. I'll
Oh,
put it somewhere
understandable.
else. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Understandable.
I think I've got a solution to that. I'm gonna have to put some kind of insulation because the arm for the microphone is connected directly to this desk. Maybe I
Yep,
can insulate that somehow.
I just went with a full standing, man.
Yeah.
Because I ran into the same. This desk is hollow, so I mean it really picks up and reverberates the sound. So
Well,
yeah,
if you
I just
put
took it all
rubber in
way
the
off.
clamp, that would help.
That's what I was gonna do. I've got plenty of that.
Oh hey, that. Let me do this.
Yep, you got to put
Hey.
rubber on your clamp, man.
Ah, Joe, you are here. Look at that.
Yep, I was able to make it today. My appointment got
Yay.
canceled.
Ah, well, not awesome, but awesome.
It's Old Home Week.
Uh-huh.
Oh, it's good to see the Sousa stuffed toy again, Leo. The Sousa thing.
Oh yeah,
Gigo.
yeah. I'll bring him back.
And the Domo.
Oh, don't
As well.
always.
Most, could you fill out the show notes for that Surfshark piece of news?
Do
That-
which what?
It was you who put it in here, right? The Surfshark VPN news.
It was
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Could you fill out? Could you copy some of the?
It was Londoner that gave it to me,
Oh,
but yeah.
okay.
Yeah, get Londoner in here right now.
Really?
Okay?
Absolutely.
Get him
Where-
in here so he can explain this to us. Tired of that.
Leo-
Tired of this.
Good news. Finally,
yeah?
I ditched Windows forever.
Yay!
Now only hopping across Linux.
Yay!
Hopping across Linux.
Very cool. Very cool. I've
But
I'm on
I
Mint
haven't
today.
settled
but
on one. I
Well,
haven't
yeah.
settled on one.
It's tough too, but I'm on Mint today. But I've been playing around with a lot of Fedora. I've got it on my laptop that I tested.
Ooh.
with.
Finally.
It's gone beyond that. Surfshark
that?
My
has
mission successful.
merged with Nord.
Ooh.
I just looked up the article on Tech Radar, and they've got a brand new one, 4 days old. Surfshark and Nord Security merged to create VPN and security powerhouse.
Wow.
So, Leo, finally I got you to use Fedora instead of Mint.
Oh please!
some other
I was on
machine.
Fedora before you were born, buddy.
Or at
No,
least
really,
before
but
Ruder was born.
Well, I've been playing with Fedora for a long time. If you listen, probably about 20 episodes before I stopped, that's when I was playing a lot with Fedora 33.
Which version was it?
33, and I started writing some articles about it. I have a couple on my blog.
I
that,
think we both started at Fedora 33.
Maybe so.
Approximately.
And anyway, but Fedora 35 seems to be on GNOME even. Seems to be extremely stable, way more power efficient than it used to be,
Yes.
and works
Totally.
on all of my devices, including the laptop that struggled running GNOME prior. So it's
Yes,
good.
so my tests have been coming true, like stable, better battery life.
Cool.
And yes, why not?
Yeah. Hey, are we doing Audacity? Did I miss that or something?
No way.
Yes,
We haven't started
But
yet.
we haven't
Okay,
started
cool.
yet.
Hey, I'm not running the show, so I'm just curious.
Today you're the
Yeah.
guest. kind
I
of thing.
am. And with Bill hooking it up with YouTube, I'm not doing nothing. I'm just here, enjoying being here.
I hope
Welcome
somebody-
back from space, as per the show notes. Okay, go ahead.
Man,
Matt.
I am flipping here.
No, Moss, you're sitting
Welcome
still.
back.
No.
Welcome back from space, as you said in your show notes.
It's that song. It's that Gloria Gaynor song. And now you're back from outer space. Something about a sad look upon your face. Yeah.
The tune kind of sounds like at first I was afraid.
That's the one. That's
It's
the
the
one.
one? It's the one?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's the
sorry.
one.
I was petrified. Yeah.
Yep.
Did you
So-
think I'd crumble? Did you think I'd lie me doing Dundee? Oh, no, not me.
How's the weather
So-
over there, Leo? Is it freezing?
I was over the weekend. We had, I don't know what that would be. It's like 6 or 7. Oh no, it must have been in the negatives, right? Because it was freezing. So like, I don't know, -8 or something. For a little
Texas
while.
freezes even.
Yeah, we got what would that be? About 5 centimeters of ice and then 5 centimeters of snow on
Oh,
top of that across 24 hours. But it's great because it's my favorite thing in the world because I love cold just in general. And anytime it snows,
Give
or
it a few
ices-
years. That'll change.
No, I'm serious. Maybe it will,
I'm
but
serious too.
right now, every time
I
it
thought-
snows or ices or whatever, I get bulked up and I walk to the store. I'll get some beer or whatever.
Don't
I
worry.
don't know.
Your joints will let you know in advance when it's going to get cold.
Oh, that's fine. I'll be all right. Surely there'll be a super drug by then, and then and then I'll be able to
Wait.
run 6 miles. Yeah,
But then we'll all have
Wait,
flying
you're
cars and it
joining
won't
the army?
matter.
exactly.
You're joining the army?
No. Ooh, God, no. No.
Selection. I heard
How
the
old are you,
word
Leo?
selection.
Yeah, not the what do you call it? Selective service is what they call it. Like, yeah, they
how-
select, not you.
How old are you, Leo?
35. I have
Nope.
to ask my daughter. She
You-
keeps
you-
up with it.
If you're 35, you're too old to join the military.
Yes.
I think
Wait,
it's
but not too old to be
36,
drafted.
Actually,
Is this 36
you know
the
what?
cutoff now?
36,
I thought it
yeah.
was 35.
yeah.
You know what
Wow.
I'm thinking? After system admin, then go into cybersecurity and then join some intelligence agency or something. Data
You got to
privacy.
be able to get well, if you're in the US, you got to be able to get a security clearance. That's not easy. And it's not cheap. I've been on the receiving end of the interviews 3 separate times. And man, if they don't make you feel uncomfortable the entire time, cuz they ask some very specific questions. Like
Even Boeing,
very specific questions. I don't know about Boeing, but if you're on
even
one of the-
Boeing and
depends on-
Lockheed.
if you're on
they
a
ask
military
you
Yeah,
for
contract,
security.
it depends on what you're doing for Boeing and Lockheed, but yeah, they have clearances.
Yep. If you're working on anything directed toward the government or the military, there's a good chance you need a security clearance because you're going to
Oh
be
my
seeing stuff
goodness.
that is secret.
Confidential.
TechCrunch is killing us here.
Moss,
Why?
Yes.
let's go over to you and get audio set up, and then we can get this started.
Okay, Leo. What was the command for getting the graphics card detail? I don't remember.
GLX info?
Yeah, GLX info or
LSPCI.
LSPCI, grep, VGA.
Yeah.
Show on the road, guys. Everyone ready on Audacity?
Just waiting for your countdown, Moss.
Oh, we are starting now.
Yes, it's after 3.
Okay,
It's 8
so
minutes after 3.
I had the idea that I want to promote that we take the individual pieces of news, the articles, and we take turns in who reads them. And I took the liberty to assign each of the news to someone who it sort of fits. So I gave the Raspberry Pi news to Joe, the System 76 news to Nishant, the GNOME news for me, Slackware to Leo, Peppermint Os, and such, if it's okay.
Waiting to get countdown. Everyone
Let
ready?
me switch to Audacity here. Okay, I also have to share my screen. So let me just quickly see if recording is working, and it does not. So give me 1 second.
Sorry, I'm having a bad cold. I'm having a bad cold today, out of nowhere.
Well, not as bad as Josh.
Get really friendly with that mute key.
Actually, when I try to mute, can you hear me?
Yes.
Pop OS has a bug. It doesn't work. The
No, you have the bug, right?
Short
Cha-ching.
circuit between chair and keyboard.
My inner biologist is screaming because the word bug, the true bugs are basically stink bugs and the cicadas and such. Okay, now
Oh my.
it's working.
I'm testing my mute, and I will be talking, and then you tell me you can't.
Testing.
Yeah, you went off.
Testing.
You went off.
Are you sure I went out? Okay.
should I go
Some-
to push to talk?
My
Ready
problem
to
is
go,
if,
guys.
Microphone check.
if I
microphone
mute,
check.
then everybody sees it. Or maybe not.
What do you mean? Everyone
We'll
sees
be
it?
fine. Norbert's a professional.
Yep.
Should I
On all
should
3
I
monitors.
push to talk?
Well, 4
push
if I
to
can my
talk on?
laptop. Oh, wait, not my 3 monitors.
Imitation Tony is waiting.
Okay. For some reason, it
1
seems like
minute.
my microphone level keeps being adjusted automatically, which doesn't seem right.
You have a ghost.
Okay. Let me try shouting and see.
No,
if it
that's
changes.
Nishant.
Joe, I want that wrap it up button from the Dave Chappelle
Is
show.
it changing?
Right.
It seems to be changing. Okay. Okay. Audacity will take care of that. I'm ready to record.
You ready to
Okay, let's
record?
go.
Yep.
Nishant, you ready?
Yes.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Record. That should be good
Yay.
enough. Yay.
All
All right.
Even
Sync
beginning.
time. 3, 2, 1.
Zero.
0.
Eh.
And we're off.
Can we
Share
do that
that
again?
screen.
Yep.
Or at least the window.
Can we do the 0 thing again?
Can we do the 0
You can do
again?
another sync.
3.
Wait, question. Sorry.
No.
If I share a window and I switch to a different workspace, will it keep sharing that window? That's not on the screen.
If you
Yeah.
share a window, it should only share that window. I don't know how it would work if you switched to workspaces and that window wasn't available anymore.
It's a separate thing.
Oh, okay. It only shows windows from. Wait, no. It
Yeah,
shows
you've
other
got 2
windows as well.
tabs, windows and screens.
Go live.
Okay, guys, let's get out of the kitchen and resync.
Now, Bill, click watch stream.
Yikes. That's big.
Yep.
Haha.
so big. Wait, it's just slow to adjust. I wanted to have put it to 150. Okay.
There we go.
So now if I
Focus,
change back to
guys,
my other
focus.
workspace, does it go away? Or can you still see
Not
the
that
browser?
I can see. Hold on. Let me watch the stream here, too.
So here's the browser. I have
If
it
it's in Discord, I
focused.
think you're okay.
Hit this little button right here.
And now if I switch to a different workspace, can you still see the show notes?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, let's re-0. 3, 2, 1. 0.
0.
0.
Yikes.
A
Good
little
enough for
lag.
government work.
We'll figure it out.
Well, yeah, the lag is because we're across the entire globe, so we're good.
Well, we don't have anyone in South Africa yet.
Well, Londoner hadn't decided to come on yet.
I know, we gotta talk to that guy.
I need him to tell me about his truck, man.
So Londoner is not, in fact, from London?
He is from
Originally.
London. He
Yeah.
is not in London.
Ah, I see.
Is he even
Okay,
from the
I am
UK?
muting, and you guys can start whenever you feel like it.
Hit this button right here, Norbert.
Okay, sorry. Now, I have a weird issue with my Audacity window where I am not able to drag it with my mouse. I thought it was going to crash, but it doesn't seem to. Okay, I might have to restart Audacity, and we might have to restart the recording. This is confusing.
Oh. Oh.
Okay. Okay, sorry. Can everyone stop the recording?
Oh. Oh.
Are we starting all the way over? What are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah, sorry.
What happened? I don't understand. You want me to hit
My
stop?
Audacity did a weird thing. Yep.
Which
Okay.
bistro?
Debian, but I don't think it's relevant because it's XFC. Must be. No, I assume that having a browser and Discord sharing a Discord open, but must be hard on the CPU. That's why I usually just open the browser on my desktop.
You want me to share the notes?
I think that would be best. Yeah.
Do what?
Yeah, I think that would be best.
Okay.
All right, so
Debian
we're
is-
stopping the recording and starting it all the way over.
Yep. Since I
Oh,
have to
good.
restart, Audacity.
So we've blown 4.5 minutes. Yay.
Just 4.5.
Yep.
Debian is good when it works and
No, like I
worse
said,
when it doesn't work.
No, it's surely it's not Debian's fault. I was trying to drag Audacity from Workspace 1 over Workspace 2 or all the way to Workspace 3 because I didn't remember my key bindings for instantly putting it there, and somehow when I get to workspace 3,
okay.
it stopped me
Okay.
there.
Okay,
If
let's
you
get
right
started.
click it in the workspace down at the bottom, and then you can move it to move to another workspace, and you can pick whichever instead of dragging it.
Stop streaming your browser.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Stop streaming.
Okay.
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 Yes,
Hang
I'm
on.
ready to start
Okay.
recording.
Everyone ready on Audacity?
No,
Ready
not yet.
to-
You are,
Oh,
Testing.
Starting
I'm ready.
over. Just like starting over.
You zoom in a bit.
can you zoom in a bit?
I can't zoom in any.
Thank you.
I wish I could. That'd be cool.
You can always swing by the house, Leo. You're always welcome here. What's
I'll
that, a
come
2-hour trip, 3-hour trip?
About 3, I guess. Depends on traffic.
And how heavy your foot is.
Guys,
Yeah.
focus. Are we ready for Audacity?
Oh, I'm ready. I've been ready. Let's go. You
Well,
start
I know
counting
you're
down.
ready, but I got to
I'm
hear from
ready.
other people.
ready.
Joe's
Let's go, Moss.
All
Let's
right.
go.
3, 2, 1. Record. Okay, let's get our sync on. 3, 2, 1. 0.
Zero.
0.
We're on.
Okay.
Mute.
Yep. Okay. Sorry.
Please edit out whatever segment you think I'm about to sneeze because
Yeah, okay.
I'm having a
So
bad cold.
you also you have to generally look out for muting myself better, because a lot of times you don't mute, you forget you mute yourself.
I'm using push to talk now.
Okay. Right. Well, I guess this is it. This is where I have to do the thing.
Yes.
Welcome to... yep, take 2. Welcome to mintCast, the podcast by the Linux Mint community for all users of Linux. From the land of the Rubik's Cube, I'm Norbert.
From the frozen south, I'm Joe.
From Kolkata, the city of joy, I'm Nishant.
From Bardtown, I'm Moss.
From the buried and frozen Midwest, I'm Bill.
And back from outer space, I'm Leo.
Surprise. This is episode 380. This is episode 380.5. This is episode 380.5. Recorded on Sunday, the 6th of February, 2022. Livestream information is at mintcast.org/livestream. Livestream information is at mintcast.org/livestream. If you see something that you would like to hear about, tell us. Send us an email at mintcast@mintcast.org. Join us live on YouTube, post at the mintcast subreddit, chat with us on Telegram, Discord, Facebook, or post directly at mintcast.org. First up in the news, we're welcoming Raspberry Pi OS in the future. Sorry, I had to read everything. We welcome Raspberry Pi OS in the future. NVIDIA does a release. System 76 improved Linux performance. System 76 improves desktop this is what I was afraid of. System 76 improves desktop responsiveness. The GNOME team share a lot of interest. The GNOME team share a lot of interest. The GNOME team shares a lot of interesting new stuff. Slackware is back. Slackware is back. Slackware is back from the dead. Slackware is back. Slackware is back from the dead. Slackware is back from the dead. Peppermint Os betrays Ubuntu. And Debian is using Arch, by the way. In our security section... Okay, I filled this one out. In our security section, a Polkit vulnerability lies dormant for a decade.
Do you want me to take over?
I can do that. I can do it.
Okay.
After Linux, GNU is also getting rusty. Ubuntu improves low memory handling, and Surfshark jumps the shark. I like that one. Okay. Then in our wanderings, most strikes a chord. I further bodge my system. Bill gets more airtime. Leo goes on an XLMX adventure. And Joe runs for board. Nishan, did you put anything in here? In the wanderings?
Yes. Just hopping around with Linux distributions.
Okay. Joe runs for board. And Nishant is a bunny. He keeps hopping around. In our inert section, we strive to become certified Linux administrators and discuss the LPIC-1 test. And finally, the feedback and a couple of suggestions. Okay, I managed to do the reading and staying alive.
You did it! Yay!
Yay! Okay, so for the news, I had the idea for a couple of shows that we should take turns with reading the pieces of news. So, without further ado, Joe, please read the first one.
Okay, first up in the news, Raspberry Pi OS finally spins a 64-bit version. While the Raspberry Pi board had 64-bit CPUs since 2016, their official distro, Raspberry Pi OS, has remained 32-bit up until now. But there's now an official 64-bit build available. It has undergone testing over the past year and is now determined to be in good shape for use by customers. So
And
yeah,
here-
a lot of other distros did have 64-bit.
Yep.
But Raspbian, before it became Raspberry Pi OS, all 32-bit, and it was just like a big poke in the eye that they never had the 64-bit until now.
Yeah, I had
The Pi still has some 32-bit chips on it, is why it's taken this long.
the Pi 1 and Pi 2 are the 32-bit chips. I have a Pi 2B Plus running Ubuntu 2004, but it's the 32-bit version only. Then the Pi 3 and Pi 4 that I've got are all on 64-bit, and I thought surely Raspbian
Right.
has had 64-bit up to this point, but apparently not.
Well, they had
Well,
it.
it was kind of pointless until the 8 gig
Yeah.
came out for the Pi 4 to switch from a 32-bit to a 64-bit.
Yeah.
There isn't that much of a performance saving unless you have that extra RAM.
Well, I guess the cool thing about it is that, if my Pi 4 ever catastrophically fails, I could pull the card out and put it into the 3, and it would work.
That was one of the nice things about the 1s, 2s, and 3s. You could use
Yeah.
the same card from the 1 doing whatever and put it on your 3 if you needed to. Well, technically you can still put it in your 4 now, but...
Also, you've always been able to get the ISO. I've had it for some time, but you had to go to the download mirror and get it. They didn't make it readily available for a download option on their website. I've had it up and running for about a year now, but it wasn't recommended. And
but you could always get the Ubuntu 64-bit version too.
Yeah, I've had that too.
That's the route I took. It was just way easier to do that.
I've got it
Wait,
running
can
right
I-
here.
What about
Can I-
Pi 400B? The Pi 400.
The
What
Pi
chip they-
400 is basically the Pi 4 with some slight
Yeah.
changes to how the hardware is situated.
It's basically the
And the clocking is a little higher because it has more thermal availability, so that it can cool because it has more space to cool.
that's what this is
Okay.
right here. And it works great. You still can't watch Netflix on it.
Oh, you can.
Tell me how.
You can't watch Netflix on it.
You can. There's a way to do it. What are those drivers called?
Oh, the non-free drivers?
Yeah. You have to
DRM?
have a special version of Chrome.
I only know it. They are supposed to have DRM.
Yeah, there's a special version of Chrome that you can install onto your Raspberry Pi, or Chromium, onto your Raspberry Pi that will allow you to watch Netflix. I'd have to look it
What
up.
about Firefox?
I've actually brought it onto the show before. No, it's actually a version of Chrome.
So Firefox is out of the question then.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's a way to force the... Why can't I remember what it's called? I'll remember like halfway through the show and probably just like scream it out in the middle of nowhere.
Wait a bit, back to Raspberry Pi OS. Can a 32-bit OS even support 8 GB of RAM? Or just up to 4?
Just up to 4. You can do like it used to be called PAE, where you'd be able to access the other RAM, but there were some limitations to it.
When did the 8 GB model come out?
Widevine.
2019.
Oh,
There's
wow.
my random screaming. It's Widevine.
Yeah.
Widevine L3.
Is that in the repos?
You need to install libwidevine CDM0.
Is it
Wait,
Widevine L3?
So they had a board with 8 GB of RAM, while their official OS didn't support 8 GB of RAM.
There's a workaround for it to make it so that as long as one application wasn't using more than 4 gigs of RAM, you could make it work.
Is it
But,
libwidevine 6?
Yes, I believe so. Widevine CDM0 is what I get here.
I that's what it says. It looked like a 6.
Okay. So what someone said on Telegram is that they probably didn't release the 64-bit OS earlier to avoid confusion, because previously when distros had both 32 and 64-bit versions, they would usually put on the website that if you're unsure which one you need, just download the 32-bit version.
Yeah, and the old way that's the new way to do it, and the old way to do it was to use the Chrome Media Edition.
See, I knew y'all didn't need help getting to 4 hours. I didn't. I knew it.
Our shows actually have technically been shorter since you left.
I have noticed that, actually, so it might be my fault. But I'm going to go with no. We're still on the first topic.
Okay, that's pretty much it for the Raspberry Pi OS Spin 64-bit version. Bill, you're up next.
All right, NVIDIA 510.47.03 driver release with support for kernel 5.17 and Vulkan 1.3. This is coming from 9to5 Linux. I assume that's what that means. This version already has support for upcoming 5.17 kernel and the recently released Vulkan 1.3 graphics API. It also supports the GeForce RTX 3050 card and a GUI control for the settings image, sharpening values in the app profiles page of the NVIDIA settings control panel. It also introduces a new daemon called NVIDIA Power D, which provides support for dynamic boost feature on supported systems for improved performance. The new driver updates to the NVIDIA.ko kernel module to load even if not supported. The minimum required kernel version changed from Linux 2.6.32 to Linux 3.10.
Leo,
Every time I
spot
do-
on with your prediction for the kernel. 5.17 it'll be.
Oh, yeah. Yep. They usually come out in a pretty predictable cadence.
Every time there's a new kernel, I get a bit nervous and hope that my existing NVIDIA drivers won't break. But this time,
Oh.
they because usually when the new kernel is released, then the NVIDIA guys have to push a fix for the NVIDIA drivers in case they don't work well with the new kernel. But this time, they have support for it even before it releases, so it's a great job.
Nice. They're getting ahead of it now. That's good.
Yeah.
System 76 is working with NVIDIA, I believe.
When
To
did they
make it for
start
Pop OS.
that? When exactly did they start the collaboration? Sometime in the past 1 or 2 years?
Yeah, Pop OS, I think 21.04 onwards.
Okay. Nice. So it wasn't even a year since they started working, and it's still not. It's already noticeable.
I think it could be before that also, but it came to my notice just like last year when I read an article where they're saying like the developers of Pop OS were collaborating with NVIDIA to make the drivers available for Pop OS specifically.
What also should be noted is that this is a production branch release, similarly to 470, as opposed to the new feature branch releases like 495. So distros that only follow the production branch and they skip the new feature releases are now upgrading from 470 to 510. Like how I was stuck with like how I was stuck with 470 on Void because they didn't switch
I'm
because they
still
didn't
stuck
switch to the because they didn't
with
switch to the
470.
sorry.
I'm still stuck with 470. The
Oh.
current Pop OS installation which I'm running right now has 470.86.
But isn't Pop OS supposed to track the new release branch?
That's what GLX info told me right
Oh.
now. Maybe
Yeah,
I need to
so-
update it.
But 510 also includes a lot of improvements that were already present in 495 that were just sort of copied over. So it's basically 495 with some added features and supposedly better stability. And I uploaded and I upgraded to it on both Arch and Void and didn't really have any issues. So it's working nicely. I'm
Okay.
waiting for it on Fedora. So
I think Fedora 36 will be having those drivers.
Okay.
Not yet.
Bill, can you? Oh, Bill is busy installing.
No, I'm fine.
stuff.
Go ahead.
No, just can you? What's the
Scroll up,
word?
Bill.
No, can you pass it on to Nishant so we have a good flow for the editing?
Right there.
Okay.
Okay, so System 76 Scheduler is a Rust-based tool to improve responsiveness. So the Pop OS scheduling service, which optimizes the CPU scheduler and automatically assigns process priorities for improved desktop responsiveness. It has been under development for some time now, and it's going to be Rust-based tool. So basically, processes are regularly swept and assigned priorities based on configuration files. So if we combine this with the current pop shell, so foreground processes may get or will be given higher priorities and will result in noticeable improvements. So I don't understand how Rust is making a difference in speed and responsiveness.
Well, they
No,
wrote the tool in Rust, and that's what's doing the decision making. So when you click on an application, that thing has the highest CPU priority. So it's, I mean, it will always be performant, even if things in the background might be getting pushed to the back. So they might stutter, or just they take a lower priority. This kind of presents a problem when you end up in a situation where you're wanting to compile something, and then after you start to compile, you swap over to a web browser to watch some Netflix. Your compile is now in the background and will take a bit longer, which if you need it done, you need to just bring it to the foreground and walk away. Or
watch a longer movie.
Well, yeah, watch a longer movie would be another way. But there are tunables in this application that you can tweak, some knobs to turn that will allow you to kind of still get that compile done in a reasonable amount of time and still be able to watch Netflix. But if you're on a battery, I don't know how well that'll work
Okay,
out.
Leo,
for you.
so coming to compilation time, Ubuntu-based systems are way faster than Fedora in all aspects. I compiled one whole operating system called Serenity, and it was faster on Ubuntu than Fedora. So something like that.
Well, it's
like
probably
compile time.
kernel differences, but yeah, I mean that makes sense.
On the
have
same
something-
kernel, 5.15.
They have something
Oh.
regarding battery here. The article says that they say that low latency CPU scheduling will be activated automatically when on AC, and the default scheduling latency is set on battery. So the way I understand it, that
Cool.
yeah, so it's not going to affect battery life. I hope.
Nice. Well,
That's
Nishan,
cool.
on the kernel thing though, you got to be careful because Ubuntu actually tunes the kernels for Ubuntu.
No,
So
I used
when you
generic 5.16 on Ubuntu
right, and
from the
so
kernel.org.
but also Fedora does the same for their kernels, and they don't. I
Fedora
don't
was
think.
damn slow compared to Ubuntu.
Wait, so Ubuntu was faster?
Yeah, very
Oh, wow.
much.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. Wow.
So how well could this be implemented on other distros without the pop shell?
I don't know. So are they using the pop shell itself to make the determination what's in the foreground?
I'm
Because
not sure. It says that when combined
says
with
when
pop shell,
combined with-
foreground processes and their subprocesses will be given higher process priority.
to make the determination what's in the
These changes result in not noticeable improvement in the experience, smoothness, and performance of applications and games.
I
The
would
improved responsiveness of applications is most noticeable on older systems with budget hardware, whereas games will benefit from higher frame rates and reduced jitter.
I assume the logic is the same. What you need to do, I would imagine, is get GNOME Shell or Plasma or whatever to identify what window is in the foreground, and then that's the tweak you have to make to inform the rest of the Rust program to do what it does. So
I kind of
probably
assume that-
not difficult, but you got to have someone that wants to do it.
So
I kind of
is
assume that
Rust
desktop environments already had this feature. I understand that the Linux kernel is developed with servers in mind, so not low latency, but throughput. But
Well,
the
MQ
Sorry.
Deadline is typically the scheduler that I see, so you got to take that up with MQ Deadline. I don't know.
okay, so there are two
Okay.
versions of kernels I have heard, like low latency version and the normal version. Like there's even a low latency version. I don't know what
yeah, I'm
that
using
was,
Linux
but okay.
Zen on my desktop.
Then it's
I
totally
haven't really
different.
noticed any significant performance difference in performance with the Zen kernel, but I also don't really play any resource intensive games.
Okay, so you're on Intel hardware.
Yeah.
I'm on AMD
And NVIDIA
hardware, and
cards.
Zen is battery friendly.
I haven't moved to. I'm still on the generic kernel on my laptop, so I haven't
Okay.
experimented with the Zen mod kernel yet.
No, I'm talking about
Next
Zen.
up. Oh, Zen. No,
Okay.
I think Zen is because the Zen kernel is low latency. Doesn't it make battery life worse than
No.
the standard kernel?
I have got like 6 to 7 hours on Garuda with Zen.
Okay, then I guess I should try that on my laptop as well. Next
Okay,
up we have
let's-
this week in. Okay. Next up we have this week in GNOME. New year, new calendar, as well as a new screencast utility. So this is not a single piece of news, but rather the new blog on the GNOME website by the GNOME team that they started last week, and each week they put out a post where. And each week they put out a post where where the various GNOME developers shared updates about their individual projects, and also they share major updates on the development. And with GNOME 42 shaping up to be a really interesting release, it's really nice to have this. It's really nice to have this post to be able to follow it. So if anyone wants to keep up with the GNOME, if anyone wants to keep up with GNOME development, I highly recommend checking these posts out. They also post them weekly in the GNOME subreddit, and I've even seen GNOME developers reply to comments on Reddit. So some people say that some people say that their issue with GNOME is that they see a divide between the users and the developers. But the way I saw these interactions on Reddit and the way these posts are written, I think it's very what's the word? Direct, is I think. So yeah. So what I want to say is, but what I've seen from these interactions in the comments on Reddit and the posts and the way that the posts are and the contents from the posts themselves, I would say that's not really true. GNOME has a very... The GNOME team have a very... the GNOME team have a very specific vision for the desktop. But that doesn't mean that... Okay, actually, I don't know what I want to say here. So, I will make it work in editing. So, there's some big news up next, and I let Leo tell you all about it.
About GNOME, I love me some GNOME here lately. And my favorite thing though is the rounded corners that they're getting rid of. Not on the windows,
Wait,
but
wait.
what?
So, does it mean you like that they're getting rid of them, or do you like the corners?
Oh, I'm getting there. I haven't quite said yet. So, like you have these little window corners that are basically on the on that top bar. It has little fangs that come down on the left edges and the right edges that hug the window itself. So when you maximize a window, it kind of hugs, and it's nice. But they're getting rid of it, and that's going to improve performance because apparently, it turns out that drawing those things on the screen, regardless of whether you had a full screen window, actually took additional CPU power, which meant GNOME Shell was using more CPU than other desktop environments. So they're getting rid of it. Yay! I'm actually excited for that because GNOME is fairly not performant on my laptop. It's gotten better over time, and if this is going to help any, I love it. I'm excited for it. So it's pretty cool. But I won't see it until what? GNOME or Fedora 36?
Yeah,
Yes, that's
in
correct.
April. Around
Or
April.
Rawhide. Yeah.
Rawhide
I
had
did
42,
install
but
Rawhide.
it's still a bit unstable right now.
It's
I've been
always
following
unstable. I'm not getting on Rawhide. There's nothing for
Yeah,
me there.
I also
No,
installed it to both. I also installed both Rawhide and GNOME OS. I know GNOME OS is only for development and not to be used, but Rawhide was in a similar state where some apps would be GTK3, some would be GTK4, and if you go to the new settings, and you set the dark theme preference libot beta, then everything using GTK4 will be dark themed. But
That's cool.
other stuff that are using the GTK3 themes you still have to change the theme for those in tweaks.
I
So it's
knew
not-
it. I was afraid that was going to be how it was, and it kind of sucks. That actually, I'm very upset with that. Can it not be a global toggle that also toggles whatever tweak toggles? Like, I feel like that would be fairly easy to do, but then again, I guess some people would
So
not.
basically, I just installed Rawhide on a VM just to check the latest GNOME 42. That's it. After that, I haven't used it yet.
Yeah.
Basically on virtual machines just to be safe and not bodge up my system like Norbert did to his.
Yeah.
So, Leo, you
well-
want to toggle your toggle?
Yeah, I just want the toggles
Ah,
to toggle.
okay.
So I don't have to toggle the toggle. The toggle will already be toggled. Yeah.
What I did on my Fedora 35 system, where I don't really use anything that uses libot beta, but I found a GTK3 theme that mimics the looks of the GTK4 applications. And I installed that, and it's fairly close. Not perfect, but fairly close. I will probably put that in, check this out.
Someone's
But,
gonna create a lib not Adwaita and
Yep.
insert
Every
it
lib.
in for lib Adwaita everywhere, and then you're gonna be able to plug in your themes again. I guarantee it. Watch.
Yep. Or Ubuntu will create, or I keep saying, Ubuntu will create libiaru, Pop will create libpop, or something like that, and everybody
looks
will
like-
have...
I saw some posts about Ubuntu, and it looks like Ubuntu is just going to go the elementary way and just start adding what do you call those little accent colors. That's how they're going to go
They
forward
did.
with that. Is what it seems like.
They did. I used the Jammy Jellyfish latest build and it is orange now.
No, I know it is because they're
Yes, but
using a
that's because-
hodgepodge.
No,
Yeah,
it's also because Ubuntu 21.04 will not have any GTK4 apps. They will have GNOME 42,
22.04.
but will hold back on GTK4 and will still ship the GTK3 versions of every GNOME application.
Yeah, but
And it will be-
2210 they'll dive in and
Yeah.
we'll see what they actually decide. And it seems like accent colors are going to be the way they're going with it. Which is,
Actually, I'm diving
That'll work.
in with the April release into LTS and maybe.
oh right,
stay
I'm
there for
talking
5 years.
I'm talking the October releases when they'll, I would imagine, start moving over to GTK4 for everything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if
Okay,
anyone is
Leo.
interested, yeah, and there's a lot more interesting stuff in these blog posts, in these weekly posts, in these weekly non-blog posts. Most notably, most notably for me at least, the most interesting one released recently was the new screenshot/screencast tool, which will have better options which will have better options for taking screenshots, as well as the way I understand it, you could take screen recordings with it natively on GNOME without installing anything else, which is good if you just want to take some quick recording for someone to make a tutorial, for example.
Yeah, this will replace Peak for me one day. One day.
One day, this whole Libra beta and
Someday.
GNOME 4.2 stuff will be well integrated into our lives, I should say. And that is the point where I hope toggling the dark preference button will change everything to dark. Dark mode.
Hope so.
Yeah.
It would be nice.
Sorry, when I said I want to pass it to Leo, I forgot that we had some. I meant the Slackware news. I will have to cut that out. Yeah.
Well. Now that it's
No
now that it's
problem.
back to me, Slackware. I've been waiting for this for so long, so long. This was something that I wanted to do before I ever started Linux User Space, and then we started Linux User Space, and I'm like, man, one day when Slackware releases one, and this is 2 years ago, almost. Well, yeah, something like that. We'll do it, and then it finally came out. Slackware 15 officially released a day or two ago. And
Slackhog Day.
what's that?
On Slackhog Day.
Oh yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. I think that guy died. That groundhog. So hopefully that doesn't bode similar for Slackware, because Slackware adopted pluggable authentication modules, and here I thought Slackware had been using PAM forever, but no. Turns out no. They've also adopted Pipewire, so you can do all that funny pluggable audio stuff as well, and shipping XFCE 4.16 and KDE Plasma 5.23. But Moss, maybe you might know better than I do, but they keep up with their packages. They're not bleeding edge or anything, but their packages always update, right?
Last I checked, by the way, when the groundhog dies, it means we have 7 more years of winter.
Oh. Well, that's all right for me. I like the cold.
It's like Game of
You're in
Thrones.
Texas.
Winter is coming.
I like the
Yeah.
cold, except when it's so cold that I have to put up so many layers that even moving my arm an inch will result in me sweating because I sweat a lot. So I don't enjoy the sweating. I like autumn and the spring.
Right
weather.
now it's cold
Yeah.
where I am.
Yeah.
But
So,
it's also interesting to know that Slackware has a branch called Slackware Current, which is a
That's like
rolling
the
release.
arch of Slackware. Yeah.
So even though Slackware, the previous stable release of Slackware still had outdated packages like KDE 4 point something, 4.12, I think. So it's that
Oh
version
god, that's
KDE
old.
4.
That's
Yeah.
Wait,
old.
so the current version 14.2, that was shipping with Plasma 4?
Yep.
Yes.
It's not
What?
even Plasma technically.
Oh wow.
Yes,
So
but-
it doesn't move.
Yeah.
Except for maybe on point releases or something.
Yeah.
No, it did move on point
Yes, but
release
what
as
does
well,
move
right?
is Slackware Current, and I assume that
Right.
a lot of Slackware users for these past years have been moving over to Current to keep up with packages.
Yeah, I guess it
So-
depends on what you're trying to do. If you're on a desktop, you might end up on current, but otherwise, you're
You have to
probably
remember it
not.
has been 6 years since 14.2.
Oh, right. Yeah. So it's
This
not
is-
lost on me that it's been a very long time, but I didn't think they were still on Plasma 4. Wow.
They
This
didn't
is
change
another Debian,
yeah,
I
from
think.
when 14.2 came out.
Right, but
this is-
I know that's what may have been released at that time, but you're telling me that you couldn't do like a Slack package update of that particular package, and it wouldn't be 5?
I think
Well,
Arch
now
did a
you
change in
can.
the naming convention. They went from calling it the KDE desktop to the Plasma desktop when they
Yep,
switched
they
from
did.
4 to 5. So maybe it was. I
You
mean,
just
I don't
needed to
know.
install that package,
Yeah.
and it would pull
Well,
in 5 for
I
you, maybe?
think Plasma came way before 4.
Yeah, it was called Plasma in version 4, but they didn't emphasize calling it
Yeah.
Plasma until version 5.
Yeah, they didn't. Well, I mean, they didn't call the packages you needed.
I just
I
realized
suppose.
how much I I just realized how much I don't understand how the way Slackware packages stuff. Isn't it the
Yeah.
same? Like you would just you add the mirror. For example, you add the mirror for Slackware, either Slackware 15 or Slackware current, and you pull packages from there. Because I heard that they
Essentially.
don't have a proper. Because I've heard that they don't have a proper package management system.
Uh,
Now I
Well, all
now I
these
realize
problems could
how
be
young
solved
I
with
am
the
in the Linux.
They've got a
Could
package
someone-
manager, but it doesn't resolve dependencies. You have to. That's
all
why
these problems could be resolved by the new script, which Leo hasn't gotten around to telling us about.
not
So,
yet.
Yeah. So could someone
So I
stay on
think-
Slackware 14.6 and just update to the latest Plasma?
That I
Could
don't
be.
know.
that's an
Because
excellent
So I
question.
mean, the whole point of us doing that episode on Linux user space here coming up is that I will have the answer to that question, but I don't have it now.
Okay, so why doesn't Slackware's ISO work with Ventoy yet? I was trying it today, and I wanted to get into Slackware before the
Ventoy
show.
fixes those things, not Slackware typically. So,
So
when
I-
Ventoy comes out with an update, they will likely have incorporated whatever fixes.
Probably
needed to happen
wasn't
for
enough
Slackware.
demand. The
What
problem
I've read is
wasn't
that
enough demand
Slackware
for
doesn't
it.
actually have a live version out yet. They
I
just have the
I
installation
have
file.
the live ISO.
Yes, but
I'm
those
not
are not official.
kidding.
Those are not official, and they aren't really set up to work
It's
yet.
from
So is
it's
the
from
Arch
the official.
is the Arch one considered live? But I mean, you're
Yep.
dropped down to a CLI,
Yes,
and
but
then
it's a
you're
live system. Yeah, it's a RAM disk.
Yeah, it's a like with 3 penguins on top and a CLI,
Yeah.
like 3 or 4 penguins.
Wow,
yes,
that's
but
old
that
school.
is a live system, but it's not a official ISO because you look at the URL that you downloaded it from. It's either something like slackware.nl or something else. So it's a third party built ISO.
No, I have one confusion right here. When I
Slackware-
search Slackware, the first link which comes is Slackware's official website, and then it tells me to go to
Wait, I'm going to Slackware.
check it out.
Website.
I'm not lying.
So but before when I wanted to try the RC1 and the RC2, there were no links on the official website.
Oh, okay, I'll just re-download it again. Maybe
Okay.
other ISOs would work. But it's telling me the error which is giving me like no live media found. There seems to be some issue with ahead. Something
we'll go
like that.
grab liveslack.org.
Okay,
I
it
think I
says
would have
Seems to be the that seems to be
Okay.
I
what you
think I would
need.
have to grab 14.2 just to try Slackware out for it.
Okay,
but
so
I-
the Slackware website currently says if you want to give Slackware 15 a test drive without modifying your disk, check out Slackware Live Edition. This is a complete Slackware installation that can run from a DVD or USB stick. Thanks to Eric Hameliers for the great work on this. Here's where to find it, and it points to a non-Slackware website. So I think the available live ISOs are still not official, but there were some unofficial build ISOs for both the current, the RCs, and now Slackware 15.
I guess we could argue about it, but it's on the official website, on the
Yep.
official Slackware 15 release post, so I'm going to call it official. That's an
Yeah.
official
Yep.
live ISO.
Okay, fair
I
enough.
think so.
Can you explain
Uh,
that again, Leo? I didn't understand.
It's official. Go get it.
It's not hosted by Slackware, but they put a link on the official website to where you can get it. So it's semi-official.
I got it, but it's not playing well with Ventoy at the moment.
Yeah,
Would
that'll
love
be a
to use
Ventoy bug.
this.
So you'll need to, if you actually want it to work, you can go bring it up to Ventoy as an issue.
Okay.
Okay. Leo, can you read the last paragraph, the last bullet point on the Slackware news?
Yeah.
The-
So makeworld.shell, it's a shell script that allows automatic rebuilding of the entire operating system from source. So I guess if you blow it up, you get and it's pre-compiled for your actual system. So that's great. And then PKG tools, which I think is what Bill was talking about. Does it really not resolve dependencies for you?
That's what I've heard. I've never tried it.
How crazy would that be?
That was
like,
just-
Old school.
That was
You end
always
up- you
like
end up-
the biggest hurdle for most people was the
yeah,
fact
you
that
end up in RPM heck, or
Yeah,
well, Slackware's version of it, I guess. Interesting. Anyway, so
I guess
Uh,
the good news there is that if you've got an application that could use multiple types of dependencies, then you could work that out on your own and then once it's installed, it'll update just fine. But it's just that
So-
initial install.
Yeah, it does stuff. Because it looks like Package Tools just got the ability to lock files and prevent conflicts between parallel installs. So that's kind of cool. I imagine it can do that. Maybe you just have to specifically ask it to do so. Huh. Anyway. And then it also got the ability to limit the amount of data written to storage to avoid extra writes on SSD devices. So, I mean, if you're running that really, really, really old SSD for Slackware, this might keep it alive an extra 6 months longer. But SSDs tend to fail safe, so even if you do run out of the ability to write on an SSD, you can at least extract your data off of it, which is kind of nice.
Well, the amount of disk dropping I've done in
Indeed.
the second half of 2020, and my SSD is still in good shape, so
Yeah,
I
well,
assume
we're talking thousands of terabytes written before you get to the edge of
Yeah.
that. So yeah, you're
Yes,
you're
but
still
I-
Same here,
I-
same
yes,
here,
but I kept
Norbert.
reformatting
Past 1 year.
that small partition at the very beginning of the disk that time. So
yeah.
it's
Now
not unique for me.
those particular blocks just get retired and then they move to the next block.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
there's
these are
firmware
pretty
on those
smart.
things that do a lot of write balancing and make sure that if you've got a block that's getting worn out, it'll move it. I mean,
Yeah, so what you see visually, like whenever you're F-disking it or you're using it in Gparted or whatever, it doesn't actually look like that on the disk. The physical disk usage of blocks and sectors is totally different than what you actually see. It would
So
look
if
a
I
little
have-
more fragmented if.
I
So
have
if
one
I
more
have a
question.
20 gigabyte, so if I have a 20 gigabyte root partition at the beginning of the disk, and I keep rewriting that, it's not just wearing out the first 20% of the disk itself, or does it?
Not necessarily. It wears out wherever the SSD firmware decided to write that 20 gigs. And it doesn't have to be contiguous, and it doesn't have to be in any... It doesn't even have to be at the front. It could be at the back. You just told it to be at the front, and the firmware was like, you know what? You're going back here. Just because that's what the firmware said. So,
Okay, question.
Yeah.
So
Why
it
do
still
we
wears
see-
the disk uniformly everywhere,
yeah.
hopefully.
Why do we
Yeah.
see like 50 gigabytes less compared to the actual size? Like 512, we get only 476.
That's
Metadata.
Yeah, well, metadata and megabytes versus megabytes. So
Megabytes.
there's a scientific denote of how big something is, and then there's what Seagate said, because Seagate could slap 1 terabyte on it and sell you 930 gigs. So
Yep.
it's
Okay.
it's a
So-
and
mostly
it's
a
also
marketing-
going to
Basically-
depend on what file system you go with. If you go with Extended 4, you've got some file system metadata
Yeah.
for the journaling, and then if you go with a
Oh, but-
ButterFS, then you've got metadata that is specific to the checksumming and things like that.
On Fedora, it just like Ubuntu, it just shows me 512 gigabytes exact.
Because it corrects what it sees, what it assumes. Because it says this is a loophole. This is a loophole that manufacturers exploit. Because
Yeah.
because the way the disk is made, it actually has it uses powers of 10, so it actually has 1,000 gigabytes. But what computers use is powers of 2, not powers of 10. So if you read that and convert it to gigabytes, then you get not 1,020. Then you get not a full terabyte, but like
now I
931 or
understand.
something like that.
So now I understand while preparing your partitions why you need to put like 110 something megabytes, like
Yeah.
110,000 megabytes for 100 gigabytes.
The way you know, here's the deal. You can just kind of dispel it like this. The way you know is if you see MB or MIB. MIB is the scientific one. That'll be the power of 2. The MB is the non-scientific one, and it can be anything.
MB.
So,
Because then why do
Except
we?
when it's not the case?
I have to
Except
put
when
like
something just uses megabytes but
110,000.
still shows MB.
well, sure, but that's on
I
them,
have to
not
put-
on you.
I have to put 110,000 megabytes for 110 GB. So for 100 GB, sorry. Like
Yep. Whatever
10
the software
more in
requires.
terms-
I always
I'm
use
talking
Gparted
about
because
Linux
it actually uses
distribution.
proper measurements.
like partition
And then I can
creation
put
and
it
all that.
powers I can just put in, for example, 20,000. If I want a 20 gig partition, I go 20,000 480.
I
and
just
then it will be
multiply
properly-
20 times 1,024 and then
Yep.
put that in megabytes and
Yeah. Yes, but because I've done so much partitioning, I just memorized those values.
I
This
tried,
can
but
be a whole topic for another episode,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Okay, so we should get going.
oh yeah.
I should be doing this thing. Yeah. I should really be doing this thing. Sorry, Joe.
Joe
was
did
not
it,
here.
but he just walked away.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, that's on me. I will cut it out later. So there was another this release.
Yeah, Peppermint OS 11 is released. In its first version since the passing of Mark Greaves, Peppermint OS 11 is out, no longer based on Ubuntu, but on Debian 11 Bullseye, and it ships with the Linux 5.10 LTS kernel. Another major change is the switch to XFCE instead of LXDE. Nemo is used as the default file manager instead of Thunar. There's a streamlined set of icons and themes, and Calamaris is used as the installer instead of Ubiquity. New apps include the Welcome to Peppermint application, which lets you quickly customize Peppermint OS by installing extra software, and a web browser. There's no web browser installed by default. And Peppermint Hub, a tool that combines the previous Peppermint settings and Control Center apps.
I got my next distro to hop onto after the show. Peppermint. PC NetSpec edition.
I've kind of gotten a bit tired of Debian-based distros, but I might give it a try.
I like
You
it.
are
It runs
using
really
Debian,
well
aren't
from a USB stick. It's a good because it's got so many web apps. It's kind of their claim to fame, and it's got a small install size, and it runs really well from a small amount of space.
Yeah, the web app thing, that's where Clem and Linux Mint got their inspiration and a lot of code to get the web app manager going.
Peppermint originally was a fork of Mint,
Yeah.
And then it wasn't.
and then it wasn't. And Peppermint
Now it
OS
isn't.
11 introduces HBlock, a terminal-based ad blocker that you can enable or disable at any time, a minimum set of desktop wallpapers, and enables numlock by default, which may
Finally.
affect some laptop keyboard layout.
Finally, are you kidding?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a huge point of contention, I'll tell you.
That's how people get their passwords wrong all the time.
Yeah.
If you have a
Caps lock.
10-key keyboard, you need that.
Yeah.
Well, here we
I
use
hate
the UK layout or the US layout, so not a problem for us.
Well, it still is a problem because you still have if you still have the numeric keypad, that still affects you.
Yeah. On my hardware, I have a numeric keypad, but nowadays, my dad, which like Lenovo, which he bought, does not have that. The numeric keypad.
Yeah, mine doesn't either. But my desktop, I like a full size keyboard on my desktop, and I have numlock off, so I can use the arrows on the numpad to time my windows instead of super left, right, up, down. It's one key
Okay,
less
that's
to
fine.
press.
PC NetSpec edition, it is called Moss, if I'm not mistaken, after the lead developer.
Okay.
I was just going through the website and the ISO is ready. I'm just ready to hop onto it after the show.
And finally, in news, Linux Wunderkind Rudra Saraswat has added yet another project to his resume, Project Una, which means Una's not apt. We've heard this kind of recursive
Oh, I hate that. I hate it.
acronym before.
I love it.
GNU is not Unix.
Project Una is a client to simplify installing software from the MPR or MakeDeb package repository, a new home for community contributed software analogous to Arch Linux's AUR.
So is this going to stop the Debian and Ubuntu hemorrhage to Arch-based distros?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Depends
either,
on how
but-
well it works.
Well, I mean, it seems to me you're just compiling the software according to the package script that is provided. And, I mean, to be honest with you, I feel like you could probably steal a lot of that from the AUR in the first place if you just want somewhere to start.
Right.
So I imagine
you
it'll be
should-
one-to-one pretty quick.
I think that's
Well,
half the reason
in terms
for
of
all of
stealing,
Go ahead, Moss.
in terms of stealing code, he's also started a new third-party Snap store called LOL.
I love it. Oh my God. So he's done the thing that everybody was complaining about, the people complaining about Snap needed to do.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah.
Man, this kid is about to just change the way that
In
everybody
10 years,
deals
he's
with
going to
Linux.
run Canonical, I swear.
if he's not, I feel like you need someone else at least as forward thinking as him.
And as an
heading that
Indian,
stuff up.
I can be proud of his achievements. He's Indian. To
I
be
tell
honest.
you, I'm proud of this kid almost like he's my own kid. I'm one of the people that donated to his Ubuntu Unity project early on.
Wait, it's the same person? From
Yeah.
Same person.
Oh, this
Yes.
guy has about 1 million projects going on at the same time, and he's fantastic in
Ubuntu
all of them. Yeah.
education, Ubuntu Unity, these two are the main which I came to know.
And in
And
a
the
new blog post, Rudra gives instructions on setting up Nextcloud on a Raspberry Pi.
Oh, that's
Hey,
easy.
now I've had a post out for 2 years that is detailed that, and I've used it multiple times. So I mean, you could see the app.
Well, yeah, but that post might not have been as accessible to someone in New Delhi.
Snap install
No, I can read
Nextcloud.
I
Bob's
can
your
read
uncle.
Leo's post
I mean, that's
on
basically
his
it.
blog.
Yeah.
Well, I've followed this person a long time. He apparently views me as a friend almost as much as I view him as one. So I'm
Oh, I
happy.
see.
We're
He's
talking-
using Docker and LXC to do his, and then Snap.
I met him. I got to know him through the Unity Telegram group, the Ubuntu Unity, and I used Unity for 1 month. Just amazing piece of work. Takes me back to my 14.04 days when I started out.
You
with
have to
Ubuntu
remember
18.
that Rudra started out by coming up with his first distro using Linux from scratch at age 9.
That's crazy.
Linux from
That's
scratch.
crazy. I was digging holes in the front yard at age 9.
Yeah.
Oh, I am feeling
really
old.
kind of reminds you where you are. you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
I'm feeling old, and I haven't done anything solid. in
You're
Linux
feeling
for
old.
Well,
years.
I am old, people.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel
No,
like
I'm
I've
talking about-
accomplished nothing.
If it makes you feel any better, at 9, I was writing in BASIC on my grandpa's Atari.
That makes me feel worse, Joe. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Joe.
No, actually, what I meant to say is that's an incredible achievement for a young tech enthusiast. No
I had a
doubt.
Atari 2600 when I was 9.
This
And
was
I'm
the
hoping-
Atari 400.
Yeah.
So,
I
Leo,
was
what does-
17 before we even had pocket calculators. Don't talk to me about this stuff.
So, guys, so what does it take to develop our own operating system?
Well,
Oh my.
first,
Moving on.
first we have to do Linux from scratch, and then we will
An
be able
initiative.
to answer it.
No, like what understanding? Like we need to have the processor understanding and stuff, right? So that's pretty cool. At such a
Yeah,
young age,
the
he
first
used to
you-
understand
first you
all
need to
the.
obtain first you need to obtain the
embedded
answer
stuff.
to life, the universe, and everything.
Well, he didn't have to
And
know
then-
everything because the kernel does a lot of that.
Yeah, you're talking about kernel development, not
I'm talking
OS
about
development.
architecture, like AMD 64 or something like
Yes,
that.
but for
That's-
for software development, you don't necessarily have to know all about the hardware.
Hey, Leo, we're all the way up to
Understood.
page 4 of 11.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, these are some high scores, man.
Oh no, I can take care of that later. But speaking of Unity, I also think it was a shame that it was dropped, because I think it was a better experience. Ubuntu on Unity was a better experience than Ubuntu on GNOME, because Ubuntu GNOME feels a bit botched.
I'd like to see him go back to it. There, I said it.
But one
Blasphemy.
question: how is he getting all the Unity code when it's discontinued?
or just adopt,
It's on
or just adopt,
Launchpad.
or just use, or just
Yeah, they open sourced it when they discontinued it.
Okay.
wasn't it
That's
open
good.
source
Gets
before?
the hack on it.
Unity?
It's always been open source, but it's not on GitHub. It's on Launchpad.
Ah, okay. Or Ubuntu could just adopt Cosmic as the rest of, which would
Oh,
be.
That won't
Far-fetched.
happen.
Yep, that won't happen, but it would be nice.
Just check
We
out
can wish
Rudra's
for it.
blog. He talks about all the things he's working on, and they're all exceptional.
I think Ubuntu
Norbert,
is going
we
to go
can
with
wish for
something
that.
Flutter based.
we can wish for
Yeah.
that, but don't expect it to be fulfilled yet. Okay, let's
I'm
go.
doing the thing. Okay. And now it's been 84 years, but we've gone through the news, and now let's move to our security section. Who wants to take the first one?
I'll do it.
Okay.
12-year-old Polkit local privilege escalation flaw now patched. This is
Now
patched.
just now. Okay.
This is brand new. Nobody's ever known anything about this until now.
Oh goodness! No, we
Yeah.
knew. We knew 5-6 years ago. There were posts about it saying exactly what was happening. and
Heresy.
Exactly this. Oh boy. Oh, but hey, but it's fixed. Okay. It's
Right. So,
Imagine what would have happened to the popularity of Linux if anybody would have hacked it. All Windows fans would
well,
be
maybe
going
it would have
crazy
been
by then.
fixed sooner. But
Windows
anyway,
purists will be getting crazy. Like Linux got hacked. We get
security
all the
researchers from Qualys,
Qualys,
Somebody-
yeah.
Qualys, have disclosed a flaw in Polkit, formerly known as PolicyKit, component present in all distros for controlling system-wide privileges. According to researchers, the vulnerability was discovered in PolicyKit's pkexec tool, which incorrectly handles command line arguments. This could lead to local privilege escalation, allowing any regular user to gain administrative privileges and run programs as an administrator. What could possibly go wrong? The pkexec tool was vulnerable for more than 12 years since its creation in May 2009, and it can be exploited even if the Polkit daemon is not running. The good news is that most major distributions have already received patched versions of the Polkit package. For example, Debian 10 and 11 all supported Fedora and RHEL releases, Arch, and OpenSUSE.
And all supported Ubuntu releases, I forgot to add that.
I mean, I saw the update on everything I'm running. In fact, I saw that update before I even knew anything about this, and I was wondering, wow, that's one I don't see very often.
So
Yeah.
we
So
have a
Debian-
vulnerability being fixed, which is even older than Rudra Saraswat.
Yes. But the interesting thing about this is that I think it had a lot of folks really spooked, but it's not necessarily more egregious than other issues that we've had in Linux. So I mean, Nishant, to your point, I don't think anybody's going to run away from it, even if we have another one of these that's 15 years old, because
No, but-
it's local privilege escalation. This is one of those situations where you left your laptop up, on, logged in, and you walked away. Then someone can use your non-privileged account to then escalate and then run nefarious things. So you literally had to have handed someone your laptop for them to be able to
No,
exploit
actually-
this.
That's usually
My
true of a
concern-
lot of these vulnerabilities,
It is, yeah.
you know.
My concern here was like what if a person SSHing into your computer uses this?
Well,
They have
that
to
that wasn't
delete that-
this particular flaw. That was them getting into your computer. You did something else wrong that allowed them to be able to take advantage of this thing. So you can use it remotely, but not by itself.
So this is exactly what my debate has been going on, that Linux cannot be hacked or attacked unlike Windows with the Windows
Well,
users.
anybody says that about any operating system, they're wrong. So
That is
whatever,
wrong.
It's fine. I mean, look at Windows WannaCry, where it was a remote code execution. If Samba was on, you were able to get full administrative privileges on the machine from anywhere in the entire world. That's bad. This is
Yeah.
not that.
Yeah, any system can be hacked. I mean, we've said that before. And physical access is king. If somebody has your computer, sooner or later they're going to get into it.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time there.
Unless you encrypt the storage. Well,
Yeah. But as a link in a multi-step process to pwn a machine, this is great. If you haven't patched against this, and they already have step 1 or step 2, all they really need to do is like drop the payload where they need. This is going to be great for them. This is like
So-
link 2 or 3. Good stuff.
so if there was, for example, an SSH vulnerability before this was fixed, that would
Yeah.
have been way worse. But
You-
then,
yeah.
but then for that you also have to have the SSH daemon running on your system so other people can connect, right?
Right, exactly. So it's very targeted in general, but I think a lot of the exploits that you see nowadays are very much multi-part. So right? I mean, this is not going to get exploited with, as you said, an SSH vulnerability to go along with it, and you know, it's never one thing that blows everything up.
So Linux is not invincible as I once thought, without any
Oh,
virus or something.
yeah, you should never have thought that, but because you did, yeah, you should,
No.
rethink that. It is
For
it's
a
not
long
perfect.
time, the tagline was that there weren't any viruses for Linux. But the reason that there weren't any viruses for Linux is because people that were writing viruses got more use out of viruses that were written for Windows because Linux is like, what, 2% of the market, 1% of the market?
When
And
you
back
write-
then it was
popularity
less.
thing.
Yeah, if you're gonna be the person to write a virus, you're gonna want to write something that's going to have access to the largest attack surface possible, and the user base that encompasses 1% of computer users out there is not going to be what you're going to shoot for. So the fact that
I was
we've
really
been less vulnerable to viruses is just
potentially rob 1 million people or potentially rob 100 people.
Exactly.
Go with the million.
yeah.
Okay, I was
And those who
confused.
were
That's why I switched
developing
to Linux.
malware. Sorry.
That was
and
the
those
reason.
And those who were developing malware for Linux were usually targeting servers because that makes more sense.
That's where the money is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
PK exists on servers, so PK exec exists on servers though, so you know.
Yeah,
I
but the
think-
server is probably
Show note
harder to get
mentioned
physical
that,
access to than someone's desktop.
True.
Show note mentions that Red Hat Enterprise releases were affected. So only those servers which were running Red Hat at that point of time.
Pretty much everything was affected. PK exec's everywhere.
Okay.
Everywhere.
So the notion that Linux is invincible is wrong.
Yes.
Yeah, you can make your computer invincible by unplugging the internet.
There you go. Actually, no, you would still be affected by the PK exec thing though. So sort of.
No,
Or
I'm just talking about
you
genuine.
could move to the mountains on the forest where you don't.
Now
even
there
need
you go.
internet.
Unplug from the internet. Go to the mountains where there's absolutely nobody physically within like a couple of miles, and then that's real security right there.
It also keeps your computer cold by compiling Gentoo.
thank you for this
Alright.
next distro thing.
Yeah. Up next, Rust written replacement to the GNU core utils processing. A Rust written replacement to the GNU core utils progressing. Some binaries now faster. Along with the broader industry trend, along with the broader industry trend of transitioning security-sensitive code to memory-safe languages like Rust, there has been an effort to write a Rust-based replacement to GNU core utils. For nearly a year, Rust core utils have been able to run a basic Debian system, while more recently, they have been increasing their level of GNU core utils compatibility, and in some cases now even outperforming the upstream project. GNU core utils provides some of the common and important command line tools on Linux systems and other platforms, like cat, ls, rm, chmod, mkdir, wc, whoami, and dozens of others. Not only should the Rust core utils be more secure, but for some binaries they are now seeing significantly is in quotes, significantly better performance than or is it just for emphasis? I don't know.
Probably emphasis. Right?
Yeah, okay.
I didn't
Um,
understand what are core utils.
But for some binaries, they are now seeing significantly better performance than out of the box GNU package for commands like head, cat, and other common ones. They remain on the challenge of closing the compatibility gap for these utilities with the upstream GNU commands. One of their lone remaining binaries still to be implemented is STTY.
So I really want to know who's out there running cat and then like a file, and then they're like, man, this is really slow. We should recompile everything. I mean,
Yes.
it's great. But now the secondary question I have is, so they're not the GNU utilities anymore. They are fully rewritten in Rust, and
Well, I would like to interject for a moment. What I'm referring to as Linux is in fact Rust.
oh, there it is. Oh, see that. So I need to know if I can say that.
Yep.
Like, so they're not the GNU core utilities anymore. And if they're going to be replaced, is it going to be like instead of cat, It's going to be dog, or is it still going to be called cat?
Well,
I don't know.
it will probably be called cat, because if you have this, then you probably don't have the GNU core utils. So
True.
there's no
Question: what is
uh,
core utils over here? The
it's
commands
basically
which we run?
it's basically your operating system minus the kernel.
Yeah, it's the basic commands that you would use on the command line that are consistent across all the distros. Yeah.
Rusty
So
cat.
yeah.
Ooh.
So basically, well, there is a command line tool I installed called Dust, which is basically DU but rewritten in Rust, and it has a way nicer output, which is why I used it. I don't really know the benefits of Rust, which leads me to asking something important.
Rust
I've-
is basically a lightweight programming language like Python.
No, because I've heard someone say that while Rust is more secure because it's a memory safe language, but something written in Rust is also slower to run than something written in C. And
Well, it's a higher level language, so you
Yeah.
always get that artifact with things, which is interesting that Rust is running faster using these utils than the GNU GCC compiled ones.
but the person
I
who
guess
took-
Rust has a better compiler.
yeah,
Maybe.
but the person
Rust
who
is an interpreted language. I have
Yeah.
read about it a bit. It's just like Python.
Rust is interpreted? I thought it was compiled.
it is compiled, but you can compile Python as well, right?
Yeah.
No, well, sort of. I mean, you can stack all the libraries that you need for the Python thing you need, but it's
So-
interpreted, is it not?
Eris in the live chat is he brought up she brought up a good point that some of these new Rust utilities are not GPL.
Uh-oh.
So
End of the word.
I'm not a developer, but one thing I've not been comfortable with in the last few years is our growing dependence on these program languages that are made by these big companies like
Rust
Google.
is not made by a company, Bill. It's an independent project.
Well, these tools, who are the tools made by and what are they licensed under then is the next question. Because if it's GPL compliant, like the Mozilla, or something similar like the MIT, we're still okay.
So what
let
I
me-
want to ask is, okay, so Rust is slower but more secure, but how important is this? But how important is this? But how important is it to move to a security to move to a memory safe
Norbert.
language?
Norbert, I'm going to need you to stop right now. It is extremely important. What we are seeing, I think, is C and C++ are very difficult languages to fully understand and fully code for in a secure manner. One of the things that that we are, I guess, experiencing now is that the types of flaws that Rust is preventing against are quite literally the types of flaws that we are seeing in the headlines right now. It's because you have very good programmers writing C and C++ code, but they don't have the security chops to back that up, so they forget to plug a memory hole. They leave the ability for buffer overflows that can then lead to execution flaws. So it's extremely important for Rust to be doing the work that they're doing, or a programming language like it.
Leo,
I can give
it's
an
MIT
example.
license.
That's fine then. I mean, I don't particularly like it. That gives, big companies the ability to make changes to it and then hide those changes from you, which is not cool. But, I mean, the base of it all is going to be free for everybody, which is almost as cool. That's why I like the GPL. The GPL forces you to be nice. The MIT allows you to just take your creation and move to the corner and hide it from everybody.
Yeah, and to be fair, I thought it was a Mozilla project, which I guess we're supposed to like that anyway, but
No, not if you listen to the wider Linux ecosystem. Mozilla sucks. So
yeah.
So, Leo, adding to your point of developers, nobody blames the developers. They either blame the code code analysts. I'm talking about August 9.
Yeah,
They either blame the business analysts or who gather the requirement and send them to the developers, or they blame the higher management for the bug.
Well, yeah, that's how it works. I blame the developer. They blame their management for wanting the code done in half the time.
They blame the people who gather the requirements. Like
I mean,
business
yeah,
analyst.
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's yes, but at the end of the day, even if you don't have enough time, I mean, you better put your pen to paper and say that these things aren't done by the end of the job, so that whenever the firings come, you at least have a good claim for some
No,
compensation.
but my friend wasn't fired though.
Oh, that so he's still working for the company
She
that
is
has
still working.
unrealistic. So she's still working for a company that has unrealistic expectations. Huh? Pretty much all programmers. I got you.
So,
Okay.
I mean, to go
She's
back
not
to my original point, though, how comfortable are we that these more high-performance, newer, modern programming languages are moving away from the GPL? And
I haven't used Golang or Rust, but Rust I have compiled for a CLI program, and Rust is way faster than C++.
right, is the
In
fact
my
that it's
opinion.
better enough of an argument to move?
I don't think we're
I
gonna change
haven't
them.
I haven't used it extensively. So if you want to contribute to a project, security project exclusively using Rust, there's a project called NRX. Like it's like container project, which is like security. I'll share the link in public. We can continue for now.
Leo, the sort of problems that memory safe languages address. When you say when you say memory safe, is it vulnerabilities like Spectre and Meltdown,
You can kind of think of them
Yeah.
like that. Yes.
or more like, for example, I faced a memory leak for the first time.
Also, yes.
Yeah, so I faced a memory leak in the color profile daemon of XFCE, which is very interesting because when I boot up my system with XFCE, it's using around 500 to 600 megabytes of RAM. One day I booted it up and it was using up to a gig, and it took way longer for the terminal to open. It was odd because it's XFCE, it's supposed to be snappy. And then I updated the system and it went away. Interesting. So, yeah. Okay. So, okay, if the way, like, okay, I see everyone moving to development. I see that Rust is becoming more and more popular, so I assume there must be a valid reason behind it. I was just a bit confused because I see argument for and against it on the internet, and it's hard to interpret what's relevant and what's not.
So the project-
Rust is going to make the developer's job easier. So I imagine it's going to get adopted eventually by a lot more people that are writing C code.
How noticeable is the decrease in performance?
I doubt.
Then-
In the utilities that we're talking about, I mean, seriously, you have to get scientific with it.
Well, not the utilities, but generally, if you, for example, the new Cosmic Desktop will be Rust based.
It depends. I mean, you just have to benchmark it, to be honest.
Yeah.
You have to, like, if you can check out the project on the public channel which I've posted, it's a confidential computing where Rust is being used to program the components of that. It's Red Hat backed.
Who wants to read the next one?
Me.
To keep moving. All right.
Okay, Leo, go ahead.
All right. Ubuntu 22.04 LTS is integrating Systemd out-of-memory daemon for improving low memory handling. If I'm not mistaken, this is what Fedora did in Fedora 34, I think it was,
Yep.
33 or
Yep.
34?
Wait, I'm
Yes.
not sure.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
what was
that
that?
can-
That was system what?
Out-of-memory daemon.
Systemd.
Demon with the long
No,
E.
yeah, no.
Absolutely.
Damon?
Damon.
No, it's
Damon.
the day's over, so demon.
Damon.
Daemon. Yeah.
OOM killer.
The biologist image just wants to pronounce his system the UMD.
Oh yeah. Well, I
like-
guess is
like-
you hear that all the
Yeah.
time.
Like Oompa
To
Loompa.
me, it meant more out of mana in games
Yeah.
than out of
So-
memory.
But that's a
Same
daemon,
idea.
right?
Yeah.
No, demon.
So it's,
That's,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
it's a
Damon.
daemon.
So a
Yeah,
daemon.
you
Systemd.
fight demons in the game, and then you restart demons in your server to go. But the cool thing about the out of memory daemon is that it'll improve the experience when, pretty much when you're running with all of your memory. It'll kill the processes that need to be killed and kind of allow you to have that breathing room and not have to use swap nearly as much.
So it's something like what Android already does.
Yeah, actually, pretty much all modern operating systems do something like this. Linux always did something like this, but the out-of-memory daemon is doing
No,
a better
but-
job of it than it had in the past.
But when in Linux, what I've seen is it immediately goes to the swap once the RAM is completely filled. It does not kill any process.
So you can configure it to do so, is really all I'm getting at.
Okay.
Okay.
We're talking about
this-
running processes.
Yeah,
That, yeah.
and this will be all nice and by default, so just good to go.
Can it kill individual tabs from your browser? Because I know that.
That's more of a Firefox or Chrome thing that it will internally sleep those tabs. I don't think will go that far into your processes. It uses memory pressure and not necessarily specific things that like a browser might be doing internally to make its decisions. So essentially, it's dumber than you think, but it's still pretty smart.
All right. Moz, do you want to read the Surf Check one?
Sure,
Since you-
I'm for it.
No, he's busy doing grammar updates.
Yeah.
I wasn't the only one.
Yeah, I kind of like the original. I kind of like the original title. But
Well, it has evolved past that title.
okay.
A week ago, TechRadar reported that popular VPN provider Surfshark, which I use, has remained coy about its ownership or corporate structure. However, in a first, Surfshark CEO and founder Vytautas Kaziokonis revealed to Verslo Žinios, a Lithuanian business news site, that Surfshark was developed alongside Nord Security and NordVPN under the umbrella company and business incubator Tesonet, which is better known for developing marketing companies. This new disclosure raises some interesting questions about the specifics of Surfshark's links to NordVPN past and present, and why this has never been admitted to before. Tesonite's website lists a dozen products that it has created and invested in, including Nord Security's range of offerings, but does not reference Surfshark. And this week, TechRadar announced it merged with Nord. Nord Security and Surfshark have announced plans to join forces in what is arguably the biggest merger or acquisition the VPN industry has ever seen. This comes just 72 hours after we wrote about the close ties between the two brands. Although figures have not been disclosed, we believe that the value of the combined entity will surpass that of the new arch-rival formed by the acquisition of ExpressVPN by Cape, owner of PIA VPN and some other smaller VPN services, in September 2021, a deal worth nearly $1 billion. Intriguingly, Surfshark and NordVPN disclosed that the agreement marks the end of a process that started in mid-2021, likely even before the ExpressVPN deal took place. Does this mean I'm changing VPN providers?
No.
Yeah, I am.
Why were you using Nord?
I've been using Surfshark. It runs out in May, and I'm probably going back to Mulvad.
How big of a concern is this? Because I've also heard the news when PIA was acquired.
Oh, Joe, here we
the
go.
new parent company. So I will try to be brief. So how big of a concern was the PIA acquisition? Was it also a marketing company?
Cape is owned by a person who is formerly Israeli military and a person who is formerly Israeli Secret Service. And
I like that.
so the fact that we think they're not releasing any information doesn't mean they're not collecting it.
Yeah, just assume that
I like
whatever you
that.
do on your VPN is going to be tracked, no matter who you go with. You can try to do your best, but I mean, there's so much mealy-mouthed lawyerese in or legalese in all of those contracts that pretty much anybody would be able to weasel out of whatever they promised you because of subsection 3 over here. So you just need to be aware that a VPN's not actually going to fully protect you in any way, but it
remember,
will
it's
let you watch Canadian Netflix, so that's cool.
And remember, it's only been about a year since Nord actually had a
For
leak.
this discussion.
So data privacy is a myth, according to the discussion we are having.
As Chris Fisher says, it matters who you transfer your trust to.
Exactly. I was just about to say it. I've said it before. VPN is just passing the trust.
This is what I was getting at with, oh, Joe, here we go again. Because Joe and I have had this conversation multiple times on this show where you have to fully trust. And do you really actually fully trust Proton VPN? I mean, really? Like 100% that they absolutely, under no circumstances, would ever give your data out to anybody?
I don't trust anybody, not even my
I mean,
friends, to
they-
give
This
my
is all
data out.
academic because we're all using Mozilla VPN anyway, so everything's
Oh
fine.
my goodness. Ooh, that's blasphemy in some circles. I love it though. That's
Is
great.
Mozilla VPN just a rebranded
I will
VPN
point out
from
if you are
another
using
company?
Mozilla VPN, you are using Molvad.
Yes. At a bit of a premium, but still, it's built
So
in.
I don't even trust my friends with my data.
That's the right
Again, you
attitude to
can-
have, I think. Encrypt everything.
Again, you can just unplug your computer and move 3 mountains. Like,
No, nobody touches my computer except my dad, just to check or what is going on or what
And
is my son
he
doing.
probably used that PK exec flaw to get in. So yeah, man, watch
Well,
out.
I
He's not
fully
that
plan
tech
on.
savvy.
I
He's
fully
not that
plan
tech
on.
savvy, but he can.
I mean,
Cleat
He's a
marks on
Windows
everyone's
user.
tongue. I
Oh,
fully
right.
plan on moving to the mountains, but I'm still going to set up a satellite dish if I need to get access.
yep. First, we need a better. What's the name of Elon Musk's satellite internet?
Starlink.
Starlink. Yeah, we need better coverage for that.
It's coming.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
trust Jeff Bezos with your data.
Wait, Starlink is
I
not
trust
Jeff
him with
Bezos,
everything
it's
else.
Elon Musk. It's Elon Musk.
We need an open source alternative to Starlink.
Musk, Bezos, billionaire.
Yep.
Oh, did you guys know
Alright.
that it is running Linux, the satellite? Could be.
This does
Did you
not
know that?
surprise me. I mean, basically, the space program runs on Linux. If it goes into space, it runs Linux.
And International
That
Space Station.
actually is not true. They are only starting to get Linux worked in. There are a whole lot of things that are not running Linux.
Yeah, they were
And
running
in fact,
Solaris on a lot of stuff.
the Mars program only introduced Linux through the helicopter.
No, they run
I have a
Solaris
question.
for the
I have
solar
a
panels
question
only.
here. What is the Linux distribution they're using on International Space Station? Because they
It's
are
top
using
secret.
Linux.
Yep.
Okay,
They
Okay,
probably
so,
don't use Polycircuit.
good one.
I have a weird question. If you had to shoot a time capsule into space that aliens could potentially find, and you wanted to put a computer in it, what distro would you put on the computer to best represent operating systems or Linux?
There is an answer,
represent Linux?
Nishant. The ISS is running Debian.
Okay,
Ah.
okay. Can we continue because Leo has
Yep.
to go?
Okay. Your Wi-Fi is you're being charged for the Wi-Fi, right?
No, it's
By the
running.
minute. Okay.
It's like monthly now, so don't worry about it.
Okay.
Yesterday it was like I didn't pay for it, so it stopped working.
Okay. But still, let's move forward. So now let's
Leo
go
needs
to
to go.
our bi-weekly wanderings. I cut that out. Take 2. And now let's go to our bi-weekly wanderings.
Well, it looks like I'm up first here. Nothing new in hardware for me. I've been struggling with Conky and Arco Linux and getting nowhere. Of course, it's easy to turn Conky off and not worry about it. A note from Londoner in the Telegram group got me to cancel my renewal due in August for Surfshark VPN, as we just discussed in our security update. Looks like the only companies out there which have yet to be actually found untrustworthy are Proton and Molvad. I'm talking to my wife about going back to Molvad and what that would mean. I joined FOM.org for the first time. This stands for the February Album Writing Month, which means that I am committed to attempting to write at least 14 songs, original or parody, during the month of February. I've had a slow time as a songwriter, an average of 1 song per year through 2020, and then last year saw me writing 5 new songs, 2 of which were originals, so I'm thinking I can push my output by committing to the project. I don't know if I can make 14, but I've already made 2 halves. If you're interested in hearing any of my recorded music, the link is in the show notes. So far I'm not doing so well, but failure is common. It's the effort which matters.
I agree with you, Max.
I
Is
have
this
2...
like, is this like Inktober, but for musicians?
I do not know.
Inktober is a challenge when in October each year artists would create a new piece of artwork each day, done by hand with ink.
Haven't heard of it, but okay. I have 2 guitars which need repair. I've dawdled incessantly on getting this done, but I finally took one of them, the Alvarez 5081, to the shop. It needed a bit more work than the other, and I don't know the repair people well in this neck of the woods, so it's best to do them one at a time.
So, Moss, when we get to see you play guitar?
I've played on the show a few times, or played in the pre-show a few times. I have a YouTube channel. It doesn't have a whole lot on it, but it's got some stuff. And I also have a link in the show notes for where what little bit of professionally recorded music I have is available.
Okay, I'll give it a look.
Okay, Norbert, I think you're up.
Yep. So on the Linux side of things, I was looking for ways to better share data between Flatpaks. On the same data between Flatpaks of the same applications between distros when dual booting, because I have a couple of applications that I always install as Flatpaks, namely Discord, Microsoft Teams, Slack, and some various other ones that I just prefer to have. That I just prefer not to have to set up and have available quickly for university stuff. And they also take up quite a bit of space. I can quickly check how much. Around 3 gigabytes. And because I multi-boot, a couple of distros, usually 2, sometimes 3. Currently I have 3 because I decided to give Fedora another try. And I found a way to share the user data between them. Since they store the user settings in your home directory /var, I just moved that directory to a different partition, my data partition, where I have read/write rights to everything, and I symlinked this to my home directories of each distro. This way, even right after freshly installing the things like Discord and Teams, I was already logged in when I started them for the first time via Flatpak. And then I realized something else. Why would I want to waste space by installing the same Flatpaks on each of those 3 distros? Surely the files must be the same because they're supposed to have the same versions. Flatpak is supposed to be universal. So I looked into it and I discovered that if you use the flag --user, so flatpak --user, install or remove or anything else, it will put all of the files for those flatpaks inside your home folder. I think under .local/share/application, no, .local/share, I think under .local/share/flatpak. So then I moved that directory to my data partition as well, and I symlinked it to each of my distros. And this way, when I would install a new distro and I would set up these 2 symlinks and I install Flatpak, all of those Flatpak applications would magically appear among my applications without me having to manually install them. And I'm logged in and everything. So it works flawlessly, almost flawlessly, because previously when I would put my GTK themes in my home directory /.themes and give Flatpak permissions for the directory for them to be able to use my GTK themes, for some reason that no longer works when I have Flatpaks on my data partition and I symlink them to my home directory. So every time when I wanted to use something like Firefox or LibreWolf or anything as GTK based via this method, even though I was using my theme SkiOS Dark, they would always open with the Advaita Light theme. That's not really an issue because the stuff that I use via Flatpaks, Slack, Teams, and Discord don't really use GTK themes. So for now it's okay. But if I want to, for example, share Firefox between my partitions, so not have to sign into individual in each distro, I have to find a fix for this, which I hope it's easy. Which I hope is just having to pass some additional permissions to Flatpak. I also did some further exploration of Sway, a Wayland-based window manager and compositor, to finally be able to use it as my main session on my laptop. I found a great Wayland-based terminal emulator called Foot, which is short for Foo Terminal. The developer does point out that they are not the greatest, the developer does point out that they're not great at naming things, which starts up noticeably faster than XFC terminal, which I've been using, which of course I think it has to use Vex Wayland because it's not a native Wayland application. So moving to native Wayland applications feels nice. They somehow feel snappier. Also using a Wayland compositor feels. Also using a Wayland compositor also feels better than using an X-based one, because when I tried to set up i3 with PyCom, I got very bad graphics artifacts on my Intel graphics. But Sway seems to work flawlessly. And I'm still unable to start Sway on my NVIDIA desktop. So the day I get to use that without problems on NVIDIA will be the day that I will say that Wayland is finally here and it's ready for daily use. I'm not saying that the average user would want to try and set up their own Wayland compositor, and I already managed to run GNOME with Wayland on NVIDIA, and it didn't really have any problems. So I'm also curious to see whether I'm also curious to see whether Fedora 36 really will default to Wayland on NVIDIA proprietary drivers. Weirdly, some of things are. Weirdly, there are some things that take an unusually long time to start. For example, wait, did I say Wi-Fi? Okay, this is not relevant. So I'm also officially done with my exam period, so I will have to catch up on a few stuff. For example, writing my thesis, as well as editing mintCast, and that's pretty much what I wanted to say. So I pass it on to Bill.
Yeah. Well, this week has been interesting given the weather that we've had here in northern Indiana. Work was cut short on Wednesday for most people. Most of the guys I work with didn't come in Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday because we got some parts of the area got about 1.5 feet of snow. Other areas got closer to 2 feet. So our boss, being ever so safety conscious, decided to ground all the trucks that were not on the road as of Wednesday morning. However, I was in Roanoke, Virginia on Wednesday morning, so I had the day of Wednesday to drive home, so I wasn't robbed of 3 days' pay, but I was home for Thursday and Friday, which gave me some time to work on some stuff. But anyway, on Monday, I started off by running a roll-off box out to Brackenridge, Pennsylvania, which is a suburb of Pittsburgh. And I did that in a round trip back home. And then on Tuesday, I loaded that one I just told you about in New Haven and took it out to Roanoke, Virginia. The whole time I knew what was heading towards me. I didn't actually run into any snow until I hit the state line, the Ohio-Indiana state line, on my way home, and that was when it just turned into an instant blizzard. The likes of which we haven't seen around here in quite so many years. We've had some pretty mild winters the last 3 or 4 years, so I think we've been kind of spoiled. So yeah, I was off Thursday and Friday, and it gave me some time to work on some more of the back-end stuff for my new podcast. For anybody that might not be aware, I'm working on a new podcast called Three Fat Truckers. To give it a little more context, there's 3 of us guys that talk on three-way a lot, and at some point we decided, why don't we share some of this stuff? Maybe other people might enjoy hearing it, because we tend to go on and on about different things. So it's going to be a podcast by basically just general conversation and the outlook on life from the perspective of the cab of 3 trucks. And it was kind of nice having that time off to work on some of the back end for that, because it was all new to me. I think I've got some of the details ironed out with regards to getting the YouTube page started. Most of you would be aware that I've got the community established on Discord. There's a Telegram page. There's a Twitter, and I think Dave made a Facebook for it. Like it or love it, a lot of drivers still use Facebook. It is what it is. It was all relatively simple until it came to setting up all the back end for the audio only portion of the podcast. Counterintuitively, it's harder to set all that stuff up than it is just to set up a YouTube account and then stream videos to it. I mean, that was just a matter of learning OBS Studio and things like that. But when it comes to an audio only podcast, gee whiz, you've got to figure out a place to host all of your audio only podcasts. In our case, we went to Red Circle, and I'll get back to that in a minute. But
that's by design, by the way. I think podcasts in general are probably the best example of the decentralized nature of the internet. And I mean, it does suck that you have to go to like 8 different places and feed it your RSS feed so that everybody knows and everybody gets it. But that's decentralized nature, baby. It's good stuff.
Especially if you want people with iPhones to be able to listen to you, which I suppose some people out there might be using iPhones, and I suppose I care what they think.
But they can use a third-party podcatcher on iPhones as well, no?
What's that?
But they can use a third-party podcatcher on iPhones as well, right?
Well, I don't know, and that's the point. I don't know if they can get AntennaPod or any of that stuff.
You can't get AntennaPod, but there are a ton of options, like Pocket Cast or whatever. I use Plex myself, which is not necessarily a podcast app. It's just something that also does podcasts. But Apple Podcasts isn't too difficult to get into either.
With Plex, you download the RSS feed to your computer and then use Plex to stream it to your phone?
Plex has the RSS feed attached to my account, so it will stream to me the MP3 from the local server.
I'm going to go on a limb and assume that most people on iPhones are not using Plex.
No, they're using the built-in podcast.
Yeah, they're using what the gods of the Apple world are telling them to use, and that's Apple Podcasts, and that means you've got to set up a whole nother thing. So that's another layer. But
did you do Spotify? So you're taking raking Apple through the coals, but did you also do Spotify?
Yeah, that's the great thing about Red Circle. Red Circle does all of the distributing for you, and Spotify is one of the ones that just kind of knows how to do by itself. You've got to set up. You actually have to set up an account on Apple Podcasts, but as far as Spotify and Google Podcasts and a couple of others. It just kind of knows how to do that. That's why the free tier on Red Circle, as far as I can tell, is probably the best option you could go with it without spending any money. But
Spotify even has a dedicated hosting app, if I'm not mistaken,
and
which distributes it to other podcasts as well, other services as well.
I didn't even look for that. I was trying to go with something as the least platform specific as possible. You know what I mean? I didn't want to lock myself into something I was going to have to find my way out of later on, the more evil they got. So I go with Red Circle, and they do all the distributing for me with the RSS feed, and yeah, Bob's your uncle. It's all good. And then I distributed that, or I posted that RSS that I got from Red Circle onto podcastindex.org, and now it's actually searchable from any podcast player. So
So,
that's
Bill, when I started like podcasting, I used Anchor, which is a app on Spotify, which made by Spotify devs, which
okay.
distributes it to different things. But that is actually individual. Like not everyone can record it and combine it.
That's cool.
So that's for solo podcasting. If you're doing it solo, it's a great app if you want to distribute a solo podcast.
Well, like I wrote down here, I wrongly assumed that if you posted on Apple Podcasts, that it would be a searchable podcast by anybody, and that
So
might,
this app is there for iOS as well as Android. So and it distributes to Apple Podcasts as well,
yeah.
apart from Spotify.
Well, what ended up happening with me was I uploaded that podcast directly to Apple Podcasts, which made it only available to Apple Podcast subscribers.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's
Uh,
really not what I was looking for. So
Another feature
Yeah.
of Anchor is you can just upload your edited podcast file and it'll distribute it to all the
okay. Well, I
podcast
went
distributors.
with Red Circle. I'm pretty happy with it, I got to say, because it's pretty simple and they do all of the work for you, and so far so good. So I
That's
think, yeah,
fine then.
we're pretty much up and running, and I have not mentioned this. I may have mentioned it, but I'm going to mention it again. We're all three going to be using Linux Mint to produce
Awesome.
and distribute this podcast. We're going to try and use as many open source bits as possible in the process as well, with the glaring exception of Discord. I don't know about these podcasts using Discord to make their podcasts. It just
I would love to hear
Bring them all up.
three.
LOL.
Yeah. Well, I may be a walrus, but you can still have my seal of approval.
Right on. But today I was
that's
playing around with Jitsi, and I think that might be a drop-in replacement. I wasn't real sure at first how easy that would be, but apparently that just works without even having to have your own server.
Or you could just point your microphone to this the radio on in your truck and talk through the radio.
Oh my. So at some point that might happen with our phones, because apparently it's all just as easy to do. But I couldn't tell you at this point the direction it's all going to go. I want the whole thing to grow sort of organically. I don't want it to become just a trucker podcast. I'm quite sure there's enough of those. And at the
So
same time,
can we all appear? as
yeah,
guests?
I will. We will make that happen periodically, as long as you don't mind. Truck drivers can get a little rough sometimes, so
No problem. Because we know you guys already, whoever is like hosting it. So
it's not going to be family friendly. I'll
Oh,
just say
your
that.
language is going to hurt my feelings.
All right, well there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's gonna
Okay.
get a little rough.
okay, guys, heads up. I am totally sleepy. I may fall asleep.
Yep. We got to
so-
keep moving.
Just don't hit your head.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, all in all, like I said, it's I've put Mint on both of their computers, and that's what we're going to be using. Dave's got the Mate version, Steve's got the XFCE version, and I've got the Cinnamon, so that pretty much covers all three of them. They're not tech people at all, so part of this is going to be an exercise in proving how useful Linux can be for normal people. I've been kind of preaching that gospel for a lot of years, that in my opinion Linux is easier than Windows in terms, as long as somebody set it up for you, I suppose.
I
I
mean,
can't wait for the VI versus Emacs episode.
Oh man, it's coming. You know it. Okay, so all in all, I had a pretty productive week setting all that stuff up, and I think we're going to be putting out some content here there is some content on the channel already, but it's just mostly us kind of playing around and showing that we're not completely incompetent. But we're really looking forward to the first show. So that's pretty much it for me. What?
best of luck with the show, and
Thank you.
Let's see how it goes.
Right on. So, Leo, what do you got going on?
I'm looking forward to that podcast that you've been talking about.
Oh, yeah.
So that's going to be really cool. I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
I'm waiting, bated breath and all.
We're looking to record something, I think, next weekend. They want to do the first episode down here in my basement. That way, if there's any technical issues, then I'll be right here to walk them through
got
it.
the Linux guru ready to go.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
I think the Vim and Emacs episode is going to be an interesting one because about 5 minutes into the show, you're going to have to admit that you gave up and started scrawling stuff on stone tablets. It was easier.
I don't have either one of those things installed.
It's also memory safe.
Exactly right. It's only your memory that is faulty. But for myself, I've been playing with MX Linux for Linux user space. It's about 3 weeks ago as we record this. We started on MX Linux, and I mean it's mostly Debian. So if you can get along with Debian, you can get along with MX. But MX packages a whole lot more in their own repo than Debian does, and I'm really loving that because you can get stuff like bpytop without having to go out of your way and like install something like Snap or install Python 3 and pip3 so that you can install it that way. It's just nice. There's a lot of tooling in there that I didn't expect to see on a Debian-based distro, but I guess you could say what MX Linux is to Debian is kind of what Linux Mint is to Ubuntu. Just niceties on top of an already amazing system.
Yeah.
So it's good
If I
stuff.
If I wasn't
Which
using
version?
Debian testing, I would just move straight to MX and not even
Yeah.
consider Debian stable.
I'm not really seeing anything outside of Flatpak and the MX repo. I'm not seeing anything that I need on a Debian-based distro that I don't have. So, I mean, as far as it goes, I think it's fantastic. So I'm using Nishan. I'm using the KDE Plasma Hard AHS version. You can't get the
Advanced
non
hardware support.
Oz whatever. Yeah,
No, which
can't get-
version? 20?
the newest
That's what
whatever.
I'm at.
Is that 21?
21,
I
yeah.
think. Yeah.
Yep.
Whatever the newest ISO was, I grabbed that and installed it, and I didn't look at it again. I just started writing angry notes about Debian bases.
So are you satisfied with the Debian base?
Yeah, I don't see any reason not to. And then on top of that, you can use the NPR if you just like don't have something. So Moss is shaking his head at me, but I know that's not because Rudra's NPR is not good enough.
Well, of course.
No, I have installed MX and been playing with it and not liking it, and I don't
That's
know.
because you use XFCE, Moss. You got to use
Uh,
Plasma and get the nice, shiny, fadey, blurry experience. That's where you're at. That's where you need to be. It's amazing.
Good.
So
be.
no GNOME edition?
I don't think so. You can install GNOME,
No.
but no. Plus, it would. Is it GNOME 40? I think, but it'll like never be updated again. So.
38.
Oh, is it still 38?
Yeah, because GNOME 40 came out in last year around March or April,
Oh,
and
goodness.
Debian Bullseye came out in August, but they're still stuck to 38.
Ooh.
No,
I mean,
I
that's
think
fine,
40
but sad times.
40 came.
Yeah.
You can have
I
GNOME
think
40
40
on testing, but I wanted to try it, but it insisted
Okay.
it insisted on pulling pulse audio for dependencies. So I'm not sure if you can replace it with Pipeware yet on Debian.
Hmm.
So for
Interesting.
GNOME, I just concluded that you have to go with Fedora.
Yeah. Well,
Speaking
speaking of GNOME, though, I mean, I've been giving it a real fair shake. Not 3.38. No. There were some performance improvements in GNOME 40 that I had to have to actually run it on my laptop, but it's gotten to the point now where I'm pretty confident running it on everything. My laptop can keep up, but where I tried it was on Fedora. Well, I tried it on Nix, I tried it on Void, I tried it on Endeavor, and those gnomes all ran faster than on Fedora, and I couldn't figure out why until I realized that just turning on extensions, not having an extension running, but turning on the ability to run extensions costs your CPU in time. As soon
No,
as
but
I turned off the watermark that Fedora ships, and I still had the same performance, but I turned off the extension, the main toggle for it, and I got performance that was equal to Nix Void and Endeavor OS. So just having extensions on slows things down And
Not
I
much
was
on my 8 gigabits
Well,
of RAM.
right. RAM doesn't have anything to do with it. I have 20 gigs, but the issue is that my CPU and GPU are just on the verge of being able to run GNOME, and by turning on extensions, it puts me over on the stuttery side. So by turning them off, I get way better performance. And because on this desktop and on my main desktop, any GNOME ran fine, but on my laptop, it's in that little area where a little too much and you can start to feel it. So
Coming to that little too much area, sometimes my whole GNOME desktop freezes on some distributions, not all.
oh wow,
Specifically Ubuntu, it like completely freezes. I have to hard reboot
I'm gonna
sometimes.
blame that on Nvidia. I don't have any Nvidia, so I don't know. I've never run into
Wayland,
just like full on
Wayland,
freezes.
GNOME and Wayland, especially on some operating systems, on
Right,
some
right,
distros.
but you're on Nvidia. I haven't had any real issues moving over to Wayland outside of, well, you can't do screen record. You can now, but like you couldn't in the past. So that's really the only issues I've ran into. But the one thing that I need to get sorted out is the app indicators, right? Because there's a lot of programs that run in the tray that GNOME doesn't display to you if you don't run extensions. So like Discord and Element, like you click X and they never turn off. So you go up to the little drop down thing that you can do in GNOME and click quit. They actually don't turn off. So there's no actual way to turn off Discord and Element that a normal user would find. You have to go
No, but
and
wouldn't Discord recess to the notification bars?
yeah, but I don't
Because
have a notification bar
Because it's GNOME. Yeah.
because it's GNOME. I don't have app indicators. I can't turn it off. That's an issue that I'm running into, and Element is the same way. Now, what's funny is that
fine.
Telegram is the opposite. For like on Linux Mint that I'm running here, I can click X on Telegram and it'll recess to the tray. But if I do that on GNOME, for some reason, the app indicator, because it doesn't exist, I assume Telegram is just like, oh, all right, cool, you want me to close. So it closes. And that makes a really big difference in GNOME because they don't ship with a minimize button. So
No, you have to use tweaks to
no,
actually
I know.
enable it.
But what I'm saying is like the GNOME
That's-
experience is this right here is what I'm explaining to you.
Yes, Leo,
Without
but you can
installing
use those
tweaks.
amazing swipes to move to clean workspace and leave Telegram on the other workspace.
No, the point is I don't want them running. Discord and Element actually use a ton of battery in the background. They're
Yep.
still updating over Wi-Fi. They're still rendering things because they're Electron. So,
Sorry, no, I meant instead of minimizing Telegram.
oh, I see. Just put it onto a different work. I guess that would work. I did also find the hotkey. What is it? Super H will hide a window. So that's the only way that I can do Telegram anymore. But I'll forget and close it, and it'll die, and I won't get notifications, and it'll upset me.
I don't use Telegram, but these days,
Were you on
considering
Telegram?
I'm
I've seen you in the Mint group a few weeks ago.
no, I am there. But I'm rarely using. So 2023 will be 2022. My aim is to cut Telegram usage. Due to
Your
some
words
reason.
to me were, Bill, I don't use Telegram.
Yeah.
So,
But I do pop in once in a while in between just to check what's going on in the groups. Otherwise, it's full of messages.
On the other hand,
So
I
you
started
do
using
use Telegram.
Yeah. On the other hand, I started using Telegram last week just specifically to be able to reach. Linux
Don't worry
groups.
about it.
Nice.
I'll be slowly coming back into the Linux groups
Yes.
because it has been like some groups have been so terrible.
Yeah.
Like
On the other
toxic.
hand, some groups are very nice. Can I shout out specifically the Fedora groups, the Fedora group, and the
You got
Enterprise
it.
group?
I'm in the country-specific Fedora group, and they have been really helpful. So I decided to join them. Okay,
well,
let's.
wrote
finishing up on GNOME, it's 99%. I think those little issues are weird. But Mint is still number one in my heart because it's what I'm recording on now. It's what I do my editing on. So Mint is still it. Mint is 100%. So yeah, there you go.
I'm still
Joe-
getting used to Mint, but that's fine.
It
I
ticks all
also
the
love
boxes.
Mint.
So Joe, what have you been up to, man?
I'm not even supposed to be here today.
I know you were supposed to be off doing fun things or something, right?
Yeah. I was supposed to have an appointment today, but it was moved out to an unknown date as of this point. Oh, and, kudos to anybody that actually caught that reference for that quote that I just did. But recently I put in my paperwork, and now I am officially running for school board. Let's see
There
how
you
well
go.
that goes.
Don't talk about it, Joe. Be about it. And you've been about it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Which position, if I may ask? School
Board of Trustees. I mean, you start at the bottom. The head of the Board of Trustees is just the person that's been there the longest, and that's the person I'm running against.
Good luck with that. I mean, I hope you get that
Yeah,
position,
we'll see.
whichever you're playing for.
I'm gonna try. Okay, some of the custom headphones that I've worked on in the past have started coming apart, and I've had to redo a lot of the work. It happens every now and again, especially since, I use the things every day. But it is getting a little annoying. I rebuilt one, and then it fell apart again, like 2-3 days later. I think I'm just going to have to completely replace the casing on it. But I already have 3D prints for that, so it's not that big of a deal. I did have to order some more parts, but they'll come in and I'll get it all fixed. I have also been playing around with SCR CPY, Screen Copy Wireless, which is cool and useful when I'm working. Screen Copy shares your screen of your Android phone onto your PC and allows you to control your phone from your PC. Screen Copy Wireless uses ADB Wireless to get rid of the wires. Now, when I first installed from the Deb, it worked fine until my phone updated to Android 12, and then I had to go back in and install the Snap to get things working again. It is actually really useful when I'm working to have just a window available to, so I don't have to pull my phone out of my pocket or whatever and just look at the screen and be able to answer calls, decline calls, answer messages, and things like that. And plus, it's Screen Copy that's wireless, which just makes it awesome. Let's see. The winter storm rolled into Texas again, and it has been very cold. Thankfully,
Can
we
anyone
only...
scroll down?
Huh?
Can anyone scroll down the notes?
Not anyone.
notes.
Bill has to do it. Okay.
Bill?
Thankfully, we only lost power the one time, but in that one time, I guess there was also a power surge of some kind because I had a stick of RAM go bad in my server, and one of my hard drives in my laptop had a partition go bad, as well as the ThinkPad port replicator that was hooked to my laptop. I was able to pull some of the RAM from the server, and for now, I'm leaving the bad partition on that laptop alone, and I have a bunch of extras of the port replicators, but I will be looking to replace the hard drive with an SSD, and I'm going to replace the RAM probably in the next month or two. I also started testing USB IP on my Pi 4. I was kind of surprised with how easy it was to set up initially, and so that I could use a pair of headphones on the Pi but have the audio be from my PC. Like, I didn't even realize that I still had it set up, and the USB dongle for my Razer Nari Ultimates that I'm wearing right now is hooked into my Pi 4, and so all my audio has been going through there this whole time. Not the mic, which also does work, but I prefer to use this other mic instead of the Naris. My next steps will be to set up the service on both machines so that the connection happens automatically. Then I'll need to order the USB hat for the Pi Zero and move everything to the 0W. I'm also going to need to 3D print a case for it and find a battery solution. Now, I've already found a 3D file, an STL, that is for the USB hub that fits on top of the Pi Zero. I think it'll come out well, and I'll be able to move around my house while podcasting using my current headphones, and hopefully with good sound quality anywhere that I go in the house. Also want to mention that the setup was easy in Raspberry OS, but did not work as well in Manjaro. on the Pi, which is where I tried it the first time. But I'll get much more into the details on that when we finally do another Pi episode. I also started using Auto Tab Discard in Chrome. It helps with RAM usage by killing Chrome tabs that you're not using, which has been helpful since I had to cut my RAM in half. The tab will have to reload if you go back to it, but if you use a large volume of tabs at the same time, then it is really helpful. You can also set certain tabs to not shut down or certain domains. That's kind of it, unless you really want to hear about my PRs on the bench.
295.
Yeah, 295. 3 times. Super happy with that. Nishant, what have you been up to?
Nothing much. I was stuck in a quarantine for like 1 month. Today I went out exploring the new area a bit, and I'm happy to say that I've finally migrated full time to Linux use, even though I'm distro hopping a lot before the shows.
What are you currently on?
Currently, I'm on Pop OS. Next, after the show, I'll be on Peppermint OS 11. Then I also, in the last week, I tried out Makulu Linux Shift, which has the different options for different desktop layouts, which includes GNOME, Plasma, as 2 of the main layouts. It's a very interesting distribution, and I might install that as well later on. And before the next, I also started setting up a YouTube channel for distribution reviews, and will be slowly getting on with it as soon as I discover more Linux distros and do more research on them.
Do more
So that's
hopping.
my 2 weeks. That's the
Wait, sorry.
life of a person who has a single laptop. So
And a single
it's
hard
okay.
drive. Was
If
it?
I had 1 TB SSD, I wouldn't have any issue.
Did you mention Epic, right? 'Cause
Yes,
I was sort of okay.
like I think what I think is practically using Linux on the terminal will help me get those commands memorized or something like that.
Yeah.
Like Leo said on the text channel, like if you remove the GUI and if you use Linux, that's how you can
Oh, you
practically
can
gain
just
experience.
type yes, do as I say, and you will be good to go. But speaking of LPIC,
Apparently, yeah.
which is the Linux Professional Institute certified test. No, sorry, was it? Which is the
Certification.
Linux Professional Institute certification for Linux administrators, which Rishant is planning to take this year, so very soon. We had the idea of inviting Leo back to talk about it a bit more in our innards. So look forward to that in the second half of this show. This is for the ending of the first episode.
Yeah, we got
And
that.
now speaking of LPIC, let's move. No, sorry, that's not good. And now let's move to our Linux innards. I realized that you don't have the music set up.
That's fine.
Yep, okay. So in this episode in our Linux innards, we decided to talk about the LPIC 1 exam, which is the Linux Professional Institute certification for Linux administrators, which Nishant is planning to take very soon. And we had the idea of inviting Leo because he is very well... What's the word I'm looking for?
Instructor.
I teach it.
Yeah. Knows his way.
That's it.
Yeah.
I teach it. I talk about this all the time.
Yeah,
so.
he knows his way around the administration stuff, let's just say that. So I guess this is the point where I hand it over to Leo and Ishad because I'm not really traversed in that's the word I wanted to say. He's very traversed in Linux administration stuff, which I am not, so this is where I will hand it over to you two to carry on this segment.
So you
Okay.
want to get certified. If that's the goal, I guess there's a couple of things you have to identify first And I think the first thing that you got to do, as unfortunate as it is you need to identify your budget. I assume that absolutely everybody asking this question has a $0 budget. So that's kind of what I look to outside of actual classes. If you're asking this and you're not enrolling into classes, I don't think you're coming at it from, well, I got $7,000 to spend. Can I just go to a boot camp 1 week and pass it? Yeah, you could do that. But yeah, so I'm assuming $0.
That
So
is
the
correct.
yeah, and I think a lot of people do this, especially for the entry level exams like LPIC 1, like the A plus, Network Plus. I guess CCENT used to be a thing. The Cisco Enterprise entry level network tech used to be a thing. They don't have that anymore. But for the certifications like that. So anyway, assuming $0, there's still a ton of resources that you can get your hands on, and the first and foremost being the actual exam objectives for the test that you want to take. So in this case, LPIC 1 is 2 parts. It's 101 and 102. And when I first started looking at it, it looked to me like one was easier and the next one was harder, but it turns out that's not really what they're doing. It is 2 parts. One is not more difficult than the other. They just don't cross over. There are some topics in the 101 test that just don't get covered in 102, and so they're just making sure that you take that half of it as well.
Okay, Leo. So if I may say so, 101 sounds like the basic part, and 102 sounds like the advanced part from what I have
So
read on the internet.
sort of, I guess, because it gets into more of the details, but it's not harder. It's just different stuff. So, right, so like they cover desktop environments. The weight is very low, so it's not like you need to know everything about KDE, GNOME, XFCE, X11, MCP, VNC, Spice, and RDP or anything. You just need to be aware
including
of
their
that stuff.
history.
Right. So, like graphical desktops are not hard, and doing system control, isolate, whatever is not necessarily hard. It's just in the second part. So again, I don't think one is harder than the other. It's just different stuff that
So
don't really overlap.
this means using the terminal will be second part, or will it
Um,
be covered both?
if I
That's
look
my
at the weights, so they have these things weighted between 1 to 4, 4 being the highest weight and 1 being the lowest. Graphical desktops are weighted as 1. Oh, I'm sorry, it goes to 5. Administrative tasks are weighted as 5. So, like, if you look at that topic and look underneath what the objectives actually are, what they want you to know coming into a test like this, you need to know how the Etsy password file is set up, how it works, what it looks like before and after you use users, how in the world do you get a user to, have a user ID that is not necessarily in line with just the next default user ID. The shadow file, the group file, the Etsy scale directory, changing age and the aging of accounts and things like that. So there's just a lot of stuff. But when you look through these, you want to pay attention to the stuff that's weighted higher first, especially if you're stuck on time, right? Like if you have 2 months, you have 2 months to prepare, and you don't
I
think
have
you can
one.
cover everything. Okay, so 1 month, and you don't have time to cover everything. Focus on the 5s, then on the 4s, then on the 3s, and when you run out of time, you run out of time. But you keep working at it from the most highly weighted thing on the way down. So, if you ran out of time, oh well, you didn't touch on graphical desktops, but there's probably going to be a whole 2 questions on it anyway. So it'll be fine.
Okay.
So yeah, the best thing you can do for yourself is just the official exam objectives. Go look at them. And if there is a word or a file or a command that you don't understand, spend some time on that. The ArchWiki exists. Go look it up. That is extremely important. So practice tests exist out there for free. They're not the best, but they're great in terms of kind of, can you read a test question and understand what they're asking and then give a correct answer? That's extremely important for this kind of stuff.
If I study I have a RHCE book from RHCE for RHEL 7. So does that book count towards this exam? Like if
If
I
you,
study a bit from that?
Yeah, if you can ace the tests, the end of unit tests and the tests that they have at the back of the book, you'll be fine in LPIC.
No, basically it's the Red Hat's
Right, you'll be
certified
fine.
engineer exam
You're going to be missing
material.
some stuff because the RHEL book doesn't cover zipper or apt. So you're going to be
okay.
missing a lot of stuff. But I mean, the general consensus of those books is going to be exactly the same. You know,
But since I already know that I have used apt practically since I'm using a Ubuntu distribution right now.
I mean,
So
as long as you can answer some of the basic questions that come up in the package management thing, like where are sources stored in an apt-based system?
okay.
You
That
know,
I need to do a bit more study on that. I know the
right,
top thing like sudo apt get install
right.
something.
They may very well ask you some basic questions like that, but they're going to want you to be able to at least basically configure apt as well. So that I think is just something that you'll need to do.
Oh, I didn't know
But
that
again,
we could configure it. I thought it was
you
already
can.
like that.
Oh no, you can weight things, you can exclude packages, you can include packages, you can pin packages. There's all kinds of cool stuff you can do with apt that nobody ever really talks about because it falls more on the administrator side of things. Because all I want to do is install Steam. I don't care about pinning. You know, that's usually how that goes. Anyway,
So interesting stuff to explore before I take the exam.
there's a lot.
Practically on Ubuntu distribution.
Yep. Use the objectives that I have linked in the show notes to get you a list of things you need to look into and then look into them. When you're done looking into them, check
Well,
out
if you
Penguin
want to-
Tutor. Take those
if you want-
quizzes.
sorry. Well, if you want to install Steam, you might still want to be sure to include Xorg.
Well, hopefully you have Xorg in the first place.
Yeah. Speaking
Yeah.
of, I remember something like this, but when I was installing Fedora, I wanted to exclude package-kit because I don't want it to didn't want it to automatically refresh package lists. So I just to the dnf.conf, I wrote exclude equals package-kit, and that
Yeah.
seems to be similar to what you're talking about. But that's
Yeah,
correct,
and
right?
the thing about that is that that's something that will likely come up in the test as well. So you have to know DNF or at least Yum, but they're interchangeable for the most part. So if you learn one,
Yeah,
you learn the
because
other.
RHEL and everything RHEL derived uses DNF, right?
So use Penguin Tutor. There's a bunch of questions. I think they have like a test bank of like 300 questions or something. So there's lots to cut your teeth on and try to understand. Then I don't know how they did this. It's probably not. You know what? I don't know. There was a link to a YouTube video that I have in here that is basically the Cloud Guru course. You normally pay like $50 a month for a Cloud Guru. I don't know how it got on YouTube. I am not recommending this to absolutely anybody. If you are unsure, as I am, of the legitimacy of the status as far as copyright goes on that particular video, don't click on that link. But, yeah, you know, the link exists. Anyway. Linux
already-
courses at Cybrary. Check those out. I don't think they have any LPIC courses, but they have Linux Plus courses, and those two exams tend to cover pretty much the same stuff.
Leo, I have a couple of 2022 boot camps on Udemy. Linux
Oh, good.
boot camp.
Yeah, use those, of course. If you've got them, use them.
Okay.
Then the last thing is there are 4 guides out there that are amazing for answering any question that you might ever have in any particular environment that you've got. Number 1 is the Arch Wiki, but Arch doesn't do things the Ubuntu way. So for that, there's the Ubuntu Server Guide, but they don't do things the Red Hat way. And for that, there's the Red Hat Systems Administrator's Guide. But they don't do things the way that OpenSUSE does all the time. So for that, there's the OpenSUSE Leaps reference guide, which is an analog to SLES, which is their actual enterprise operating system. So
Nice.
those things are the canonical, excuse the pun, source for this information. Go use them more than Penguin Tutor, more than the YouTube video, though the YouTube video is kind of cool. More than Cybrary. Look at the canonical sources for this information because that is the real answer.
You
so-
mean to say like official distribution
Correct.
sources?
Correct.
Case Ubuntu, in this case Red Hat.
Yep. If
and
you want to know
OpenSUSE.
how Ubuntu does it, ask Ubuntu, and Ubuntu told you in the Ubuntu Server Guide. So check that guide out for the real, actual answer. So I guess if you just want one straightforward path to learning all of this stuff, I'd say go to the 101 objectives, click on it, and identify each one. Any one that you're unsure about, take it to the Arch Wiki, read everything you can. Do not be afraid to click the links. Click them and read those too. Because anything that the objectives leave out, because on the objectives it's like, this is mostly what we test on, but they're implying that there are things that they will test on that are not written down. So what you're meant to do then is in the Arch Wiki, click on all the links. Because anything they might test you on, I guarantee you there's a link in the Arch Wiki that will explain exactly what it is. And by falling down the link hole, you learn about it anyway. So you'll have a good base to start from. And then
Yes.
find that same thing in the administrator guide or the server guide for the distro that you want to learn about. So once you read about it on the Arch Wiki, go see what the Ubuntu server guide has to say about it. And then the Red Hat guide, and then the OpenSUSE guide, because there will be little differences. And LPIC does need you to know the difference between the three major distributions, right? Red Hat, Ubuntu, and OpenSUSE. So that's pretty much it. And if there is an example that comes up, there's a command that they ran in the book, or there's a command that they ran, or in the guide, or there's a command in the Arch Wiki, find a way to run it. Run that command. See what it says. Get it wrong as well. See what it
What about
says
using
when
the
you get it
man
wrong.
pages?
Man pages are great, but I feel like they're really, really convoluted, to be honest with you. The server guide does a better job of explaining what things are. But of course, the man pages are the man pages. It's written by the same team that wrote the program. So of course, it's going to be good information, but people that write code don't necessarily always write good documentation for layman folk. It's great for other admins because they know the terminology and stuff, but not always so great for people just starting out. So be aware.
True.
Server guides are good for that. Anyway, don't be afraid to ask questions. And if you feel embarrassed about it, create a burner account and go ask those questions on Reddit, in Discord, on forums, whatever. Do not be afraid to get things wrong, because here's a secret on the internet. Here's a secret.
On the internet, nobody knows that you're a dog.
Well, also true. If you get something right and ask, like, is that correct at the end of it, no one will come. All you will have is tumbleweeds. What you need to do is ask a question and then answer it incorrectly. I guarantee you within an hour, someone's going to be there to probably rudely correct you. But ignore the rudeness and just take the correction, because that's the real answer to the problem. So answer questions wrongly and someone will come correct you.
Or have two accounts, ask with your main account and then give a wrong answer with your burner account.
There you go. And then someone's going to try and slap you down. That is absolutely actually, every time. And it's great. So use that to your advantage. Psychology, it's fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
Speaking of Reddit, someone recently
machine?
posted a photo about them finding an old book and asking whether it's still relevant. And I think it was the Unix and Linux system administration.
Oh my God, yes.
Yes.
Better than any server guide. These people run it for millions of customers. So if you're going to ask someone, does it really work like that? Those are the people to ask. Buy that book.
Where?
Not for this test, but just to have. It's amazing.
One of the names on the book, actually the first name on the book is Evil. I'm not sure how to pronounce it yet.
Yep.
Is it because the name
this
is a very common surname here in Hungary? It means German. So I assumed, she must be of Hungarian origin. And I looked her up, and she was regarded as the mother of system administration.
Yeah.
So
Can you
let me just
share
put it
that
into
book link?
context how good this book is. Tim O'Reilly. So you know him as the name that shows up with all those weird animals on the front of the books dealing with system administration or programming type topics. Tim O'Reilly himself said that this is the book they try to write every time they write anything, up to this standard. So the guy that owns the company that sells the most technical books in the world looks up to this book for what he does. So, be aware. This is it. If there is
share the link to the book.
Unix and Linux System Administration Handbook. This is the 5th edition, but I'll get you a link later.
Okay.
So, yeah, if you actually care about beyond LPIC 1 and LPIC 2 and REL and all of these other exams, if you want to actually be good at your job, that's the book you want.
I actually want to get enough knowledge that I can just do some consulting on my own for the
Well, that's cool
company.
too. Yeah, I mean, but again, this book is going to help you with that. So get a couple of certifications, get some credentials under your belt, and then take that book as a reference. It's amazing. So back on LPIC though, let's say you do have a tiny budget and you can scrape up like $20. If you can do that, go get yourself a copy of the Cybex practice test. It's 1,000 questions in a book form, and it asks pretty much everything in every possible way. So it's a great resource to find out, if you can get 85% on, 100 questions in a row, you're probably ready to take the test. Do the next 100 and see. Do the next 100 and see. Eventually you're going to memorize the answers to some of those, so it's not infinitely useful, but it's going to be useful for finding out whether or not you're ready. So you can usually get a used copy for like $15.
Oh, okay. I'll have a look if it's available in India
Yep.
because we
And
have so many book
if not,
market.
there's you could probably find a web version or a PDF version of it as well. So if you can find that, that's just as good. If you got a little bit of cash though, if you do have some money, and you don't necessarily want to do it all on your own, I mean, this is when you've got the budget to like subscribe to CBT Nuggets or IT Pro TV or something for a month or two, and just essentially get a whole course on it. That's fairly cheap. If you've got more money than that, you're probably looking into enrolling into a college or a boot camp or something like that anyway, so they'll have better advice as you go on. But this was written, again, as kind of a guide for someone that doesn't have any money, that is wanting to do this all on their own, has enough money
Can
for a voucher,
somebody convert this to Indian rupees? Like go to
Uh,
Amazon.in and sell.
Maybe. Surely you can. Anyway, so just
The price,
some...
I mean, you can just Google for currency.
I don't
exchange.
trust those. Those are not accurate sometimes.
What do you mean? How much was it? $15? Or what did you say, Leo?
it was like $13.99 the last I saw.
Oh, so okay,
But that's in
so
the American market, though. I don't
Okay.
necessarily think that'll
So,
translate.
but regardless, if I just type 40 USD in INR, it says. Sorry, I have some internet issues again today.
No problem.
3,000
Well, either way,
rupees.
I mean, it's going to be fairly cheap, and if you really have to, surely the PDF's on the internet somewhere. So
But that doesn't pay the author.
I
Like
know
in
it
software,
doesn't.
we say.
I agree, but buying a used copy doesn't pay the author either. But if you're on a budget, you do what you got to do, and used is not
True.
wrong. So anyway, the test I don't think is particularly difficult. The difficulty really kind of comes in when you realize the breadth of information that they're talking about. If you've ever heard the phrase "inch deep, mile wide," that's it. Where you don't really go that far in depth to any of these things, but there's just so much on the menu that you can easily get lost, and it's very easy to forget little details when you're sitting there in the hot seat, sweating, worrying about 20 questions from now, and something just escapes you. It happens. So the only way
Happens
to
to
really
everyone.
combat that, yeah, it does. The
Maybe-
only way to combat that is to make it so that these things just pop up into your mind, and the only way to do that is to do it a million times. So that brings me kind of to my last point, which is, if you're interested in passing, all you want is the credential. Then easily, in 2 months, 8 to 10 hours studied per week, you could probably do it in less. But the point about that is that you're just memorizing facts to answer questions. That's not going to help you when you're actually in front of something that presents in a way that you've never seen before. You skipped the troubleshooting
What my
part.
understanding is, like if I just memorize it, it will be like no use to me. So if I'm
It'll
actually
still
working in
be
the environment,
useful, but
so if I'm working in an actual system admin environment, for example, or maintaining my own system, it won't feel like I want to like with less practical practice. I don't think anybody can do that.
Right. Think about it like this, right? I mean, you've seen people swing hammers before and hit the nail every single time, right? They get good at it. So you can see that. And you can understand that, oh, well, you swing the hammer down, you got to have good aim. There's something about the weight of the head that makes impact that really drives the nail in there, right? And so you can understand the rudimentary aspects of what a hammer does. But does that knowledge allow you to actually successfully use a hammer? No. What allows you to do that is swinging the hammer yourself. Putting those topics that you've learned into actual practice makes the difference between someone that knows how to use a hammer and someone that can use a hammer. So that's what I'm getting at here. You can know how to pass this test, but passing this test doesn't mean that you can actually do it in real life. The people that can do it in real life are the ones that ran every single command out there in a VM multiple times to figure out what it does, what it doesn't do, and what it says when you get it wrong. That's more important than getting it right. Sure, anybody can copy and paste, but when it tells you something that, so-and-so is wrong in this particular space, can you go fix it? Did you spend the time to go and look and find out whether or not you yourself can fix it?
I have made many mistakes when typing sudo apt-get, like without the hyphen sometimes. So it just prompts me that please try this. This
Yeah.
is the wrong way to do it.
Or you can
But-
just write sudo apt without the get part.
Well, true, but in his
But
case,
I'm used to that.
could you
I'm used to
have
that.
could you have figured out the answer without the bash prompting you and telling you that that's what you should be doing? Because in Debian, it's not going to tell you that. And in other more baseline distros, it's not going to tell you that. You just have to
Yes,
know.
that's true.
Yes, but
So-
if you're already trying to run your package manager, that assumes that you know about your package manager and what it's called. So
Well, Linus didn't know about it, and he just borked his system. So, I mean, you can say that, and sure, as an admin, you should. But I think that it's a long road to being an admin, and there's a lot of failing and getting it wrong and borking your system before you get there.
I think admins have a lot of pressure on them for maintaining the customers' servers and all that stuff, right?
Well, they do. I mean, just look at the SLAs they agree to. It's 99.999% uptime. I think a lot of those have gone down. AWS has gone up. So, yeah, there's a ton of pressure. They were outside of their SLA when they brought down Route 53 and broke the internet. So, the
not
pressure was
concerned
on,
about-
man.
I totally understand how much pressure they will be having maintaining large-scale servers, like production servers.
Yeah.
One downtime and the whole company grinds to a halt.
Yeah. So the last thing I'll say on this is the test itself is pretty straightforward, as I mentioned before. There are only two types of questions that you're going to get on it: multiple choice and fill in the blank. So you either know it or you
Or
don't.
you don't.
There's no in between here. There's nothing that you can really do short of, a question 3 questions ago mentioned that. Oh yeah. That's as lucky as you're going to get. But if you don't know it, then you don't know it. So the other thing is, if you run out of time, if you got like 5 minutes left and you got 20 questions to go, just guess. Just fill it in. Just guess. Because if you don't, you get the question wrong. But if you guess and get the question wrong, well, at least you guessed, and you might just get it right. So, yeah.
And even if you have to guess, you might be able to still eliminate some answers. So maybe if you have 4 options and you can decide between 3, but the 4th one is definitely wrong, then it's easier to statistically you have a better chance of guessing, right?
Yeah, you've seen those commands enough to know that, spelling FSCK wrong is definitely not the right answer. Yeah, exactly. I mean, eliminate as much as you can and just guess. But FSCK might be what you want to say at the end of the test too, so. All right. Well, that's it. I mean, basic test prep, study as much as you possibly can for
Make VMs.
all the VMs, man. You need to have 1 VM of everything, if not 2 if you can spare the space, and just make it work. You can install so many different vdisks in a single VM that you can easily do all the RAID and LVM and all that other disk and partition management stuff they need you to do. Multiple NICs, so you can do split horizon and break networking and do all kinds of weird things.
So-
Set IP addresses, yeah, all of that.
Like, if I can't do it on my computer, can I ask one of you for assistance? Like remote SSH in and then
See, the funny thing about that is that you're going to have to learn a lot of networking to be able to let someone SSH
You
in.
can just
TeamViewer might
SSH
work.
You can just
Yeah.
SSH into one of your VMs.
It's a little bit difficult to SSH into a VM.
No,
But,
I think
I mean-
I think in VirtualBox you can just set it up to have a internal IP address assigned
No,
by
I
your
just
router.
asked because I don't have the space for it
Yeah.
right now.
Well, the thing is, then just do one or two at a time. You don't have to do them all at the same time, but you do need to set up some scenarios where you can actually test out the thing that you're supposed to be testing out. Like SSH doesn't work with just one machine. Well, I guess
Okay.
technically it does. You can SSH into yourself, but that doesn't really solve anything. So, you have to understand the IP addressing part of it to be able to fully say that, yeah, I can do SSH, I can generate keys, I can push them over, and I can use passwordless entry and all this kind of stuff. So you've got to
Okay.
actually do it. That's if you take one thing away from this, it's do it. Don't read about it. Do it. And that will make way more sense.
Okay, so this was exactly the reason I moved to Linux full time.
Good.
That's
Get
you
why
can
I
do
moved to Linux full time.
Yeah, now never left. Yeah.
I'm not leaving
Except-
anytime soon either.
Good.
Windows.
Except for when that new DLC comes out that's
Yeah,
not working on
but
Linux.
if you have two machines, then yeah, set up passwordless SSH between them, and
It's one of the objectives.
I did
You
try.
better do
use
it.
I did
Yep.
try it on Fedora. I had Fedora on my HP laptop, and then I used to SSH into that and then run it on my
Yep.
main. But
Good
it
thing
was
is
with
that-
a password.
I'm
Just
not.
do it.
I never learned to be an administrator, but coincidentally, one of the first things we learned when we started using Linux is to do a passwordless login.
Oh, nice. Oh, cool. So they set you up for success, really, because that's
Yeah.
the way the world does SSH now.
Mhm.
And if you don't,
Wait,
well, you're behind the
passwordless
times.
SSH?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
use
with
keys instead of passwords because
Pretty
it's
neat.
way more secure. Way
How
more
far?
secure.
How far we have come? Like when my dad was working as a project manager, he got certified in Windows 2000, Unix, like both side of the coin. Now we can choose which we want, like either Linux or Windows system
You
administration.
just made me feel really old.
Joe, my dad is like 50 years and above now.
My first Windows certification was Windows 98.
Yes, my okay. Leo wants
Yep.
to.
Move the wheel forward.
All right.
Right. But that's my line.
All right. See y'all later.
Right.
Thanks for joining.
You're welcome.
Thanks for joining,
I'll be
Leo.
back. I
Good being
will-
here with you, Leo.
Leo, are
thanks.
you leaving? We only have vibrations left, and check this out.
Yeah, I gotta go pick up my daughter.
Yeah, it's that time.
Understandable.
Cool.
Okay.
Stay safe, man.
All right,
Thanks
y'all have a
for
good
the
rest of the
input.
show. I will I'll export and post the audio when I get back, but I'll save it before I leave.
Okay.
Sure.
Have a
Stay
good
safe.
rest of your day.
All right, y'all too.
And
Bye.
we hope to see you soon again. on the
I'll
show.
be back. See y'all.
Bye. All right, so let's move. All right, so let's move. Sorry. Just another piece of general tip for preparing for exams that I discovered that really helped me was flashcards. Especially if you happen to need, especially when you have to memorize a lot of information that you have no other way of learning, just brute forcing it into your brain. Flashcards help a lot. And now let's move. Ooh, I can't talk today. And now let's move over to vibrations from the ether. We have one vibration this week. Who wants to read it? Oh,
I can do it. Oh
Line up.
no, Moss.
Let- Moss.
Go ahead,
Moss Margaret is his own in the notes. Go ahead, Moss.
Dylan Berger writes, "Hello, mintCast crew, and thanks as always for this amazing podcast. As a very loyal Mint user, I've been very pleased by the amount of positive press that Mint has been getting for its 20.3 release.
Mm-hmm.
And well, it should, because it really is excellent. However, I thought that the 20.1 and 20.2 releases were equally awesome, and they undoubtedly did not see the same positive coverage. If anything, it was negative. So I'd be curious to hear why the hosts think that it is different this time. Am I wrong? Is 20.3 just patently better than the prior offerings? Is it timing of the release? Just momentum from a few positive early reviews? Thanks again. Looking to next show. Best regards, Dylan B.
Well, actually, that baffles me as well.
No, I think it is momentum from early positive reviews. So, at least that's all I've seen. I haven't seen anything negative about it yet. Just positive reviews so far.
So I
I
have-
don't remember seeing a lot of negative reviews about 20.1 and 20.2, other than the kerfuffle that kind of went on with snap packaging.
Yeah, that was 20.0.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of that was relevant to the release that was out at the time. I really can't explain the reason behind all of the love we've been getting in all the other podcasts.
But yeah, the thing about the snaps might be that the negative opinions sort of carried over to 20.1 and 20.2, and it affected the reception of those.
Well,
Possibly.
this is our third point release, and I think by now people that were negative on it have found out that, yeah, it really works right, and Clem probably made the right decision in the first place. And
I don't know if it's the snaps or it's just the fact that Mint, as all these other distributions have been fighting over what's more or less the best or worst technology, Mint has just been offering something that works. You know, that anybody for that matter, can install on their desktop, and it just works. You know, we haven't gotten into the whole Wayland or the Pipewire thing. You know, it's all these arguments that all the other desktops get into. I mean, yeah, the snaps thing, that was a thing, but I mean, it's not like there was software out there that we just can't get on Mint because we choose not to use snaps, you know. Other than that, though, I mean, I've been impressed with I listen to a lot of Linux podcasts, and they've been talking in the last few episodes a lot about Mint, and it's been overwhelmingly positive. Even some of the podcasts that have been, shall we say, critical of Mint in the past have been quite a bit positive.
When it comes to using, I really enjoyed 20.3, and if time comes, I would make it a permanent daily driver if I have
It's a good release,
At least for a week.
at least for a week.
Not I'll set it to 1 year, but I'll try my best because it looks so Windows-like. So
Well, I don't
that's
know.
what
It doesn't look anything
Is it-
like Windows 11. I'm not sure where that comes from, but it does follow the
it looks
paradigm.
like Windows 7, Bill.
I
The
suppose.
one that was good.
Well, I don't know about that because I've got a machine that ran 7 pretty poorly, and then I put 11 on it, and it
I'm
ran a
not
lot better.
saying that I don't hate it. I just would like to implement that layout change so we can use it as a dock in between as well.
Well, you can install. I mean, it's
Cinnamon.
Linux. You can install anything you want on it. You know, when it comes down to it.
Like Cinnamon should implement that layout change feature, to be honest. That's all the difference.
Maybe they don't want to overcomplicate it because Cinnamon is geared toward the beginner
New
users.
users, exactly.
Yes. And the users
Then
might
that's fine.
not be interested in the layout switcher, and you can just customize your panels manually anyway. So you can move the panel to the top, remove the window buttons, and install a dock, and you're good to go.
Yeah, if you've got the
Okay.
inclination, you can make it look any way you
Yep.
want. Really.
Let's
Alright.
go ahead.
Let's move over to check this out. And in check this out, I put 2 links here today. One of them is a Flatpak. One of them is a package. One of them is a tool called Extension Manager, which is a better alternative to the official GNOME extensions app, and it's packaged as a Flatpak. It's available on FlatHub, and its most notable feature is that besides is that besides editing and configuring your extensions, you can also use it to search extensions from extensions.gnome.org and install them. So it essentially removes that. So it essentially removes the need for a browser and a browser extension for installing GNOME extensions, and it's kind of baffling, to be honest, that the official GNOME extensions app doesn't have this feature built in, because when someone starts using GNOME and they might discover that you can use extensions, having to figure out which website you have to go, which browser extension you have to install, in case you don't have a Chrome GNOME shell, installing that as well, which connects your GNOME shell to your browser extension. It just simplifies all of that. So it's Extension Manager on FlatHub. I think it's not an official GNOME project, but it was included in one of the GNOME weekly newsletters. So much like the unofficial Slackware ISOs, that kind of makes this more official than others.
Believe it or not, Arch ships with this by default when you install GNOME, the GNOME Extras group.
Oh.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. Okay, it was developed by Matthew Jakeman, and you can just install it from the FlatHub. The other link I put here is a GTK3 theme called ADW GTK, which recreates the looks of GTK4/Libet Beta apps for GTK3. So if for example, this extension manager it's using GTK4, so in case you want to have the looks of, for example, in case you want to have the looks of GNOME 42 in GNOME 41 or earlier with GTK3 apps, or you might be using GTK4 apps and you want the GTK3 apps to look the same, to blend in better, you could have a look. You can have a look at this theme. Does anyone want to add anything to that? Right. All right, then let's move to announcements. Our next episode will be at 2 p.m. US Central Time on the 20th of February 2022. You can also get this converted to your own time zone with the link in the description. Our next live stream will be 2 p.m. US Central Time on the 12th of February 2022. You can convert this link to your own time zone as well. And now for our wrap up. Let's just go in the order. You can send me an email. If you want to reach me, you can send me an email at norbert@mintcast.org. Joe, when can we find you?
Well, if you like the sound of my voice, you can listen to a couple of my other podcasts. I'm on the Linux Link Tech Show. That's at tllts.org. I'm on the Linux Lugcast. That's linuxlugcast.com. You can find me on MeWe. You can send me an email, jb@mintcast.org. Or if you can get to the show notes, you can buy me a coffee. Moss, how about you?
You can email me at bardmoss@pm.me. You can hear me on Full Circle Weekly News every week, and Distro Hoppers Digest roughly every month. And my other contact information can be found on itsmoss.com. Nishant?
You can contact me at nishant@mintcast.org. And if you want to collaborate on a project, it's reconghost at GitHub. And if you want to play some games, it's Maverick00783 at Steam. That's about it.
I noticed how you skipped your Instagram. All right, Bill?
Right, yeah, so I'm Bill at mintcast.org. I'm Bill_H at Discord. I'm at WC Hauser3 on the Twitter and WC Hauser3 on the Facebook. And before long, you can get a hold of me. Well, you can get a hold of me also on my other show's email, show@3ftpodcast.org. How about you, Leo? Oh, Leo ain't here.
Yeah, he had to leave early, but you can contact him at leochavez.org. But you can find him at leochavez.org. and at Leo Chavez on Twitter, or at Leo@c.im on Mastodon, as well as on his podcast Linux User Space at Linux User Space. Sorry, as well as on his other podcast Linux User Space on linuxuserspace.show, or you can buy him a coffee at coffee.com/Leo Chavez. Josh Howe couldn't be here today, but you can reach him at joshontech@mintcast.org, at joshontech on Twitter, at joshontech on Twitter, and most other social media, as well as on his other podcast, Crowbar Kernel Panic. And the other Josh, or as I like to call him, Josh the Third. He couldn't make it today either, but you can reach him at jt@mintcast.org, Josh Thacker on Discord, and at metal_false on Twitter, which is, in my humble opinion, the best Twitter handle in the history of Twitter names. Before we leave, we want to make sure to acknowledge some of the people who make mintCast possible. Ooh, that's awkward. Norbert for our audio editing. That's me. Do I thank myself? That's a bit awkward. I'll just leave that out. Josh Lowe for all his work on the website, Hopstar for our logo. I mean, yeah, I left my own name out. It would be a bit awkward
okay.
to.
We'd like to thank Norbert for editing the show. There.
Yeah. Thank you. It would have been a bit awkward to thank myself. Josh Lowe for his work on the website, Hopstar for our logo, Unedited for the animated Discord logo, and Londra for our time sync. Bytemark Hosting for hosting mintcast.org and our backup Mambo server. Archive.org for hosting our audio files, HPR for our backup Mambo room, Mike for being awesome. Ooh, that was left in from a long time ago, I guess. And finally, the Linux Mint development team for the fine distro we love to talk about.
Thanks, Clem.
Thanks, Clem.
Thanks, Clem.
Play closing music and standard outro. Oh, wait, that's not supposed to be read out loud.
Oh, well.
I shared our secret.
So I got to stop. I got to hit the end stream on both YouTube and OBS, right?
You got to do
So
it on
can we
YouTube
stop
first
recording
and then
now?
OBS. Yes, we can stop recording now. Export